Classes in session, college football, hitting the book show Monday, November 24th. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack. U.S. Thanksgiving week, feast week is here. We got tons of sports going on. NHL, NBA, college football, NFL, wall-to-wall college basketball day and night. What a week to be a sports fan and sports bettor. But it is our final week of the college football regular season. It's hard to believe it has gotten here already and how quickly every year we talk about it, how fast the regular season goes by. And here we are already, the end of the regular season. We got a ton of games, so we're just going to jump right into it. A few more games even than usual. So we're going to jump right into it so that we can keep this show, around that 2.5 hour mark when it's all said and done. So we'll jump right in and we'll start with the two games on Tuesday. Maction, Western Michigan and Eastern Michigan. Nice little in-state battle to get us going. Western Michigan, 6.5-point road favorites, 46.5 the total here in this game. When you look at the way it sets up here for Western Michigan, boy, they started slow against Northern Illinois and then just turned it on and didn't look back. 6-1 in conference play. They're in the MAC championship game. It's a matter of who's going to join them right now in the MAC championship game. There's that slog of teams at 5-2 that are still alive. Ohio, Toledo, Central Michigan, and Miami O. So, what kind of focus do you get here from Western Michigan when it's all said and done? That's going to be the question. They're playing great, though, and certainly not an easy team to bet against. This is where we like Chris Creighton normally, in these spots, catching points. They are 5-1 against the spread here in the last 6 games, this Eastern Michigan team. I think the biggest fear that I would have, though, about Eastern Michigan is they are wretched against the run, and that could be a big problem against Western Michigan, right? Western Michigan's a good they run the football extremely well, 163 rushing yards per game this season. But you look at Eastern Michigan, and all year, 226 rushing yards per game allowed, 5.5 yards per carry, which is absolutely atrocious run defense. I think that's the thing that would concern me most here. It's Eastern Michigan in the point spread range. I like them in. Home dog, road dog, doesn't matter. When they're catching points, I'm always interested. But I just don't think the matchup works for them. So ultimately, I think it's going to have me off this game and staying on the sidelines for it. C-Mac, what do you think here? Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, Eastern Michigan, I think this team's a little bit different from early on, but the run defense, like you talked about, is still not very good here. And also, when I look at this Western Michigan team, as well as they run it, Lowry, the quarterback play, has been very, very good. You don't turn the ball over, good things happen. Of course, they want to run it a lot more than they throw it on the other side, Eastern Michigan. Our guy Kim over here, he can make a mistake or two that just you get your head scratching like, what the hell is this guy doing? So, man, I'm tempted here with Eastern Michigan in this role. Finally, Ball State's a little bit their issues offensively, but I think at home, if you can't get up for this, and two teams that have been good against the number, as bad as Eastern Michigan was early on in the year, like you talked about, starting to play a little bit better. I think this is, I don't know. The MAC, it's just so difficult sometimes. Sometimes it's just, I find this conference bettable and really, really good. And other times a team can just lay a flat egg and shit the brick, as I like to talk about,
No doubt. All right, this next game on Tuesday night in Maction, we've got Bowling Green and UMass. Bowling Green, 14.5-point road favorites, 45.5 the total in this game. It's Bowling Green on the road laying doubles. Yes, you are seeing that correctly. Even though this is a team that is 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread. Their last 4 games, they've lost 3 of those 4 games outright as a favorite. So they've been laying points in 3 of the last 4 games, and they've lost all 3 of those outright as a favorite, as well as the game last week where they were a slight dog at Eastern Michigan, and they lost that game 27-21. We've talked about the quarterback issues. They're down to Hunter Nam at quarterback because they've had everybody else banged up and injured, including Drew Pine. Not that it's a big downgrade, but again, Nam is lackluster, to put it mildly. But this whole offense is lackluster. It's been this way all season with Bowling Green with their offense. It's just not been great really throwing the ball or running the ball for that matter. So hard to trust them laying doubles on the road, but UMass is pretty bad. That being said, UMass last week against Ohio showed a little life, showed a little ability to just, move the football, put up some points. It was wasn't the same old UMass getting absolutely steamrolled against Ohio. And in fact, they covered the closing number. They were getting 33. They lost by 28. Now, look, losing by 28 here is not going to get the job done. I get that because they're only getting 14.5. But I saw some life from UMass a little bit, certainly in the passing game. Their quarterback actually was able to move the ball just a little bit for them in that game. Grant Jordan, which is good to see for them. They've been crying out for a quarterback to finally be able to give them some kind of jolt, throwing the football. Final home game, UMass at least showed a little, like they had looked like a corpse on the field in all these blowout losses, UMass, until last week. Like last week, I actually saw a little spark. That wasn't, I get it. It's still a game. They lost by 28, but they actually got the first touchdown of the game. They went up 7-0. They went right down the field on their opening drive. And so it makes me think maybe this team is not completely, threw in the towel and called it quits here on the season. And it is the home finale. I get it. It's been a miserable season, but it is your home finale. You showed at least a little glimmer of a pulse last week against Ohio. I think I might want to be on the points here, believe it or not, with UMass. Plus 14.5. How the hell can you lay 14.5 on the road with Bowling Green? 0-4 straight up and against the spread, quarterback issues, offensive issues. If UMass brings the kind of energy they brought last week against Ohio for what's their home finale here in Amherst, they might be able to stay inside 2 touchdowns. That's another thing. Bowling Green is not Ohio, not even close. So that's why this point spread is where it is. I think they could make this a competitive game, UMass. I truly believe that because you look at Bowling Green, they have won a single MAC conference game, and it was that crazy game against Toledo where they came back from the dead to win 28-23, and they only won that game by 5 points. They've lost every other conference game, this Bowling Green squad. So if you want to trust them, go for it. But this is a Bowling Green team that obviously has a ton of issues. They haven't been good, as I said, in the favorites role. And the Akron loss last week, too. Don't forget that. And I cashed a ticket with Akron last week. 19-16 for Akron. Bowling Green was laying in that game, too. So they've been miserable in this conference. That's all there is to it. One conference win. 0-5 straight up and against the spread their last 5 games. I think I'm betting UMass here, C-Mac. What are you doing? Bowling Green, UMass.
I don't know. I can't do it. I can't bet this game. And I like the ugliest games of games. You know what I mean? Like, I want to – usually I love these things. UMass has shown 0 for me. The Buffalo game was it, really. I know we talked about it last week a little bit. They're scoring right away. Then they get even a late touchdown, I believe. It was in the third, fourth quarter, in the second half of that game. But it's tough to back a team that's dead last defensively, basically in a ton of categories. And they're dead last offensively, like both sides of the ball. There isn't like a glimmer of hope either way. But you hit on the other thing here. Bowling Green's just, it's been a little bit of a free fall. They just don't have a quarterback, but in this game, they do still have, I think, of course, the better defense in the spot. So I don't know how UMass, I've hit their team total under, a few times this year. I know they're at home. Normally, I'd love to take this. But maybe you think if they get 14 points, that could get them a cover. Even if, Bowling Green just scored 28 points. This one, I got to sit with just 2 bad teams. Bowling Green, of course, 0-5 on the road. The constant we see in the MAC is these teams are horrible on the road. We go through all these games week by week. It's like they're pretty good at home. There's a record that they're just 0-5, 1-4 against the number on the road. So it's like tough to take. This one is ugly. So as of now, I'm off.
All right, we turn to Thursday. There's no Wednesday games, so we go right to Thursday, Thanksgiving night, and we have one game, and it's in the AAC, Navy and Memphis. Memphis, 6-point home favorites here, 59.5 the total in this game. Definitely some things we have to figure out before, determining just what we're going to do as far as betting this game is concerned. And obviously, we've talked about this, on the show for, at least a few weeks now. That Brendan Lewis, the quarterback for Memphis, he's been banged up. He's played through it. Looks like he's going to play through it once again here. He was in the game last week, obviously against East Carolina. Actually played okay, but costly interception right toward the end of that game. And obviously East Carolina was able to come back and win that game last week against Memphis 31-27. You just wonder for Memphis here. It is their final home game, obviously, of the season here at the Liberty Bowl. But, this is a team that had some aspirations to win the AAC title. This was a team that had aspirations to maybe be in the playoff, and all of that's gone right out the window. It was already looking bleak for them when they lost to UAB way back in mid-October. But these last two losses against Tulane and East Carolina have taken them right out of it. So, is the energy level there for Memphis for this final home game, knowing they're going to fall short of expectations? Meanwhile, you've got this Navy team coming off a really impressive 41-38 win over USF South Florida in their last game. The offense with a healthy Blake Horvath back at quarterback was able to work and get the job done moving the football. Obviously, when you look at this matchup, you have to consider what we have seen from these two teams obviously for Memphis as far as their ability to stop the run. And if you look at it, this is important. The run defense, the numbers for the full season for Memphis look pretty solid. 3.8 yards per carry allowed, 127 rushing yards per game allowed. Look at the last three games, though. Haven't been as good. This Memphis run defense. They've had more issues. So is this going to be an opportunity for Navy maybe to get a little bit going on the ground here in this game? And this has also been, if you go back historically, for some reason, this has been a thorn in the side, Navy, for this Memphis team. Just the last 2 years alone. Here at Memphis 2 years ago, Navy was an 11-point dog. They lost by 4. Competitive game. In fact, Navy outgained Memphis by 24 yards in that game. And then last year at Navy, 56-44 Navy, and they ripped Memphis for 566 yards. And also, that was a win outright as a dog. So 2-0 against the spread for Navy the last two meetings, both of them covering as dogs. I think Navy's the bet here for me, +6. I don't know where Memphis heads at. There's a team that thought maybe they'd win the conference, maybe they'd be in the playoff. No way that's happening now after the back-to-back losses. I think Navy, and with Navy and any service academy team, catching points, you're always going to get them playing hard. And now with a healthy Horvath, they showed what they're capable of. To put up 41 points and beat South Florida, that shows you how scary Navy can be when Horvath's right and he's healthy. And he's right and he's healthy right now. And he's coming off, both teams are off a bye, but the bye really helps Navy. It means Horvath can probably, look even stronger here. So I like this Navy side. Totals-wise, with FB Gotti in the chat saying he likes the over, I certainly wouldn't bet it under. That is for sure. Memphis has gone over in 4 straight games. The last 2 Navy games have seen 59 and 79 points. So, yeah, it's over or nothing for me with the total here. C-Mac, what do you think for Thursday night? Navy, Memphis.
To touch on the total, I think it could get there. Of course, Navy, they run it, but I think there's big plays. In that game last year
too on Thursday night, no issues.
Yeah. They're. He ran for over 200 yards. I think they ran almost for 400 yards. It was a beatdown. I'm sure Memphis remembers that. But I don't think this team's very good. One thing Memphis too, a little bit to the over. They should have no problem throwing the ball. Who's ever there, they should have success. It just seems, and if Navy's in this game, there's got to be some points, whether we can get here over the number. But I was definitely looking at that and leaning that way. I think it's Navy too. I just don't trust Memphis, a team that was really, really good and still is. They're 8-3 ATS. To start the year, they finally drop a couple. I just think this is a back and forth game, and I think Navy can run the football here. So I'm looking that way. my hatred of Memphis as a favorite always stays true. You know, yeah. Come on.
Yeah, that's been a pretty constant theme on this show. Is that Memphis laying points is usually a no bueno.
When they're a dog, they've been excellent too. Yeah, when they're catching points.
All right, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. You'll be all hungover from turkey and wine and whatever else you have Thanksgiving for dinner. And Friday, you're just going to lounge around, watch some college football, bet some college football. And Friday begins with Ohio and Buffalo. Ohio 6.5-point road favorites, 44.5 the total here in this game. Again, it's important to note here with this matchup that we talked last week, Ohio and Buffalo were both still alive to make the MAC championship game. Only Ohio is alive now. Buffalo got eliminated last week, so Ohio can still get in. They're 5-2, but obviously they need a win, and they need things to go involved with. There's a bunch of tiebreaker scenarios, too many to name, but Ohio can give themselves a chance to be in the MAC championship game with a win, and we'll have to see what happens with Toledo, Central Michigan, and Miami, Ohio. The other team's tied at 5-2 right now in conference play, but obviously this game means everything for Ohio if they want to try to get back to the MAC championship game and want to try to repeat as MAC champions. So we'll see. That doesn't mean I'm rushing to lay 6.5 necessarily, because it is final home game for Buffalo. The problem is Buffalo just continues to disappoint, over and over again. They've not been the team I think a lot of us expected this season. We expected a little bit better out of them, and for them to just get carved up at home, that's why I have a hard time buying into the angle of Buffalo's going to show up for their last home game. Well, they played at home last week and they lost 37-20. Their defense got ripped apart by a guy that could barely complete a forward pass, Henry Hessen, the week before that against Toledo, when he took over for idiot there, DeQuan Finn, who just decided to leave the team to prepare for an NFL draft where he's going to be lucky if he even gets drafted. Make sense. But nevertheless, Henry Essen was terrible against Toledo, and there he is ripping apart that Buffalo defense last week, 37 points. So not good. Maybe an over here, because 44.5, Ohio's going to move the football and put up points. UMass's offense, kind of had success last week, even a little bit moving on Ohio. So maybe we'll get points. Here's my concern, though, with the over, and it's actually why the under's taking money. 14-mile-an-hour wind, 60% rain for Buffalo in the forecast on Friday. So that might temper the enthusiasm. But, yeah, it's hard for me to bet Buffalo here. It really is. It's a terrible game at home against Miami. I know there's that incentive to maybe play spoiler, keep Ohio out of the MAC title game, but their defense has given up 37 to Henry Essen. What are they going to give up to Parker Navarro and a pretty good Ohio offense? That's what concerns me. C-Mac, what do you think here, Ohio, Buffalo?
It does concern me a little bit. I think the defense has, struggled a little bit and regressed the last, 3 or 4 weeks. Because early on, even those games that they lost, when they were home earlier against Troy, they lost by 4. UConn, they lost by 3. I think that could be a similar type game here. Shout out to the chat, my guy Matty Ice. What up, my dude? FB Gotti, everyone in here. Papa Ricky, appreciate you guys. But yeah, I mean, this team wants to go bowling here. One thing, Roberson's, as I look through all these teams and he just turns the ball over. It seems like at least once a game. I mean, there's just always a pick. He had 4 in that horrible game at home against where they lost to Akron 24-16. So they got to take care of the ball. We know Navarro, as talented as he is, he can make mistakes. And one thing, as much as this Ohio offense is pretty good, I don't think they have the best defense. You know what I mean? They give up 155 on the ground. Buffalo, I think, will be able to move it. So I think the game's tight. I'm leaning Buffalo here at home. I like to have the touchdown. This is just kind of a weight. We talk about this a lot. Seems like we've had a lot of 6s, 6.5s, or 9.5s in games lately. That's how books know what they're doing here. But I'm leaning that way. Buffalo.
All right. Next up, we got the Egg Bowl. It's Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Ole Miss 7-point road favorites, 62.5 the total here in this game. Obviously, there's a lot of going around and circulating about Lane Kiffin. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go to Florida? Is he going to go to LSU? LSU seems to be the rumor that's really heating up, that Baton Rouge might be his next destination as head coach. There's a lot of people thinking he's out. He's done. He's moving on. Out of
Why?
I don't know why he would. He's got a nice situation. He's built this program. He's got a nice thing going. I know
he's all over social media.
Yeah,
like a fucking dingbat.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting to see that. Both teams off the bye with the extra week to prepare for this game. I think there's a lot going on with Ole Miss. I kind of want to take the Bulldogs here, getting 7, but it was pretty rough for them these last 2 games. They had so many. I got to see an injury report because they had so many guys banged up the last 2 weeks, especially on defense. And you saw the result. They're giving up 45 to Texas, 41 to Georgia, 49 to Missouri. Like, this defense is just – it's first of all got a lot of injuries and it's depleted, but it wasn't very good even when they were healthy. So, if that team is going to be shorthanded defensively again, then that's trouble against Ole Miss because, how can you not love Trinidad Chambliss, and the way he's played? He's been absolutely tremendous here for Ole Miss. So this is kind of one where I've got Mississippi State circled. Certainly have the over circled. I don't know how you make a case for the under with Mississippi State's defense right now, which is just an absolute peril right now at the moment. Weather's going to be fine in Starkville Friday afternoon for this noon kickoff. No rain, 5-mile-per-hour winds. I'm going to need to see how healthy Mississippi State is on defense, but certainly it's a Mississippi State and or the over for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're going to get some pretty good news. I'll look at that as well. Well, a little bit when we get to these games, we talk about this every year. Sometimes you got to throw out all the numbers and everything we're looking at. And 2 of these games, the last 10 meetings, 9 unders here. There's just something about getting pumped up. Egg Bowl here that in Starkville, the cowbells will be ringing, I think. I want Mississippi State after how bad they've been playing. This is where I want them here. Chapin was horrible against Missouri. He had a couple bad picks. He's one of his worst games, I think, there. And maybe even, I think it's early. It's the full game, too. Because we've seen this team get up on some teams and really falter down the stretch. And this Ole Miss offense is legit, like you talked about. They're very, very good. They can throw the ball around. But these games like this week, look out. I think we could see a little bit different type football and tight games. We'll get through the rest. We got a bunch of them.
All right, Iowa and Nebraska. This is always played on Black Friday. These 2 teams head-to-head. We've got Iowa 5.5-point road favorites, 39.5 the total here in this game. Wow, how about Iowa? Was it just a hangover from the USC game that, in that monsoon where they played their guts out and, gave USC everything, fell short, and then to come back home and look that lethargic against Michigan State, barely surviving with the straight-up win, 20-17, as 17 points. It's just a reminder, don't make a habit of laying double digits with Iowa, under any circumstances. And we saw that against Michigan State, but they did get the win. We'll see how they fare here against Nebraska. Now, we've talked about this matchup for a very long time. All these games, for the most part, have been close. You go back to 2018, the last 7 meetings, the margins have been 3-3-6, 7-7, 3-3. Last 2 years, both games decided by a field goal. Iowa won both games by the exact identical score of 13-10 each of the last 2 years. So it's difficult to lay points in this matchup. Can't do it. Every recent meeting's been decided by a touchdown or less. But the number's in a good spot. Does it fall 7 and Iowa wins and covers? Or does it fall below that and Nebraska wins and covers? Not to mention, I took Nebraska last week. Bad call on my part. No, they were bad. That was not a good performance from Latif. Latif was starting to show, a few glimmers of hope at the quarterback spot, but no, he couldn't get much of anything going against that Penn State defense on Saturday. You got to give Penn State credit. Bad season. They've already seen James Franklin fired, fall short of all their expectations, but those kids are playing hard down the stretch, Penn State. So I give them credit for that. And that was a very good performance by Penn State. Obviously not a good performance by their defense. They got ripped apart. Grunkemeyer, holy mackerel. He looked like that was one of the better Penn State quarterback performances I had seen in a while, what he was doing against that Nebraska secondary. So the problem is, I don't know if I trust Nebraska right now at the same time. So normally I would take the points here. I guess I lean that way. When you look at this total, we've seen 23-23. Now, we did have some games get into the 40s and 50s before that in this series, but the last two meetings have been exactly 23 points. So I guess it's lean Nebraska and under. I don't know if I'm going to bet it, though. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, and this total's low, under 40. I'm a little bit concerned. The biggest concern I have in this game, Iowa, I wish they blew out Michigan State a little bit. You know what I mean? I think this maybe the line may be too much crazy, difference here. I have one issue. I think Nebraska, you talked about a little bit, the secondary hasn't been great, but they've been pretty good against the pass. It's the run. I mean, Penn State ran all over them. They had 231 in the game. I mean, they have to sell out there here at home. They gave up 161. We know Iowa wants to run the football. They average 175. So I think that might be a little bit of an issue. And can this Nebraska offense with Latif move the ball? Maybe it's going to have to be 13, to cover this number. And these games have been close. So as of now, this is a wait for me throughout the week. These are the few we talked about last week. Nebraska had to stay off. The hardest one was I wanted to take SC, goes to 10.5. I just stay off there. So, this is a wait for me.
All right, next up, we've got the Kent State Golden Flashes, Northern Illinois Huskies, back to Maction. We've got Northern Illinois, 4.5-point home favorites, 45 the total here in this game. Northern Illinois decided, you know what? We'll show up for one quarter last week. That's about it. That was pretty surprising to see that. Yeah, just one quarter, and then whoop, that's it. Our work's done. Our job's done for this week. It was pretty crazy to see that. They just came racing out of the gate, and then it was all Western Michigan from that point on. We've got Kent State, obviously, coming into town. They actually are a winning point spread team this year, Kent State, 6-4, if you can believe it, against the spread. And you start to look at what they've done on the road. Okay, they got crushed by Toledo. Obviously, they got crushed by Texas Tech, Florida State, and Oklahoma in non-conference, and they got crushed by Toledo 45-10. But these last two road games against teams that are in that ballpark with Northern Illinois, they played at Ball State. They lost by 4. They played at Akron, 7.5-point dogs. They won outright in overtime. This is take the points or nothing. I'm not laying squat with Northern Illinois and their offense. So Kent State or nothing for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what to make here, Kent State. I want them. They're just what keep them, I think, in this game is the defense has to be somewhat better, which is they haven't been very good, of course. But they got to run the football. I don't know if they can. This team, we've hit on it. They're super slow, and they can't run the fucking ball.
That's the concern. You're right. As far as their offense, you're right. They're going to need to have success running. I think we had a connection issue here with C-Mac, but you're right. The run game has been a problem. They can throw it a little bit, but you want to take it. The thing I'll say about Northern Illinois is, they're shockingly giving up 160 rushing yards per game. And their run defense, has been not nearly as good as we've seen it in the past. So maybe there's an opportunity here for this Kent State team maybe to have some success on the ground. So all I know is Northern Illinois is not the kind of offensive team where I'm saying, yeah, we'll lay more than a field goal with you. Not a ton of trust for what they're able to do on that side of the ball in a price range like this. All right, Utah and Kansas next up, Big 12. We've got Utah, 13.5-point road favorites, 60 the total here in this game. What a crazy wild game with Utah, Kansas State last week. Back and forth. I certainly didn't see I wasn't totally shocked. Utah did a number on the Kansas State defense. I was definitely surprised Kansas State had that much offensive success in that 51-47 game, but Utah survived it. We'll see how they fare here now against Kansas. Kansas is coming off a 4-point loss. Actually, they played Iowa State over the weekend in Ames, and they lost 38-14 in that game. The defense pretty much got picked apart by Rocco Becht and the Cyclones offense. Meanwhile, their own offense, with Jalen Daniels continues to be kind of up and down when it's all said and done. Certainly Utah's defense was not very good last week, and they did give up 28 to Baylor, so 24 to BYU, 34 to Texas Tech. Kansas in their home finale, could they put up some points here? I think they could. They've been a better offensive team at home, most of the season. That's where they put up more of their points. I think Utah could score against this Kansas defense. So I like the over more than anything here with Utah and Kansas. I think we're going to see some points here. I think Utah's the much better team, certainly the much better defense, but we did see their defense get gashed last week by, not the greatest offense in the world, and it is Kansas home finale. So, like I said, I just don't want to lay 13.5 with Utah. If you want to, final home game for Kansas and you want to take them in this spot, I don't hate it. And they do need a 6th win for bowl eligibility. So, you would think Kansas got to show up here for this game with bowl eligibility on the line, but I just don't know how many stops they're going to get. I prefer the over. Like I said, I think you can make a case plus 13.5 for Kansas. Home finale, need a win for bowl eligibility. But I really do worry if they're going to get stops on the defensive side against this great Utah offense led by Devin Dampier. All right, next up, we've got Arizona and Arizona State. Territorial Cup rivalry game here. Arizona 1-point road favorites, 48.5 the total in this game. Very interesting spot here where you've got, excuse me here. Apologies for the coughing. Don't like doing that on air, but we're, again, still getting over the cold. Noah Fafita, Jeff Sims, the quarterbacks for their respective teams. It looks like Jordan Tyson's healthy again, which is big here for Arizona. Obviously, their best receiver, and we'll see if he's able to make a big impact here in this game against Arizona. You look at the recent series history here in this rivalry. Arizona had beaten them 2 in a row, and Arizona State got them back pretty handily last year, 49-7. One thing that's been a common thread with this rivalry as well, 5 straight overs, and the minimum total points in those 5 straight overs were 53. So to see this total, 48.5, feels like it's a little light over the total. I'm definitely interested as far as that's concerned. Obviously, weather won't be much of a factor here on Friday, if at all, for this game between these two teams. Let me just see the latest stuff. Yeah, it's going to be fine. No wind, perfect conditions. So the over is what I like here. I'll say this about Jeff Sims. He's been okay. He's been solid. And the guy's been around for a very long time. And, last week against West Virginia, they find a way to win that game 25-23. They did struggle a little bit. But like I said, I think definitely we could see this Jeff Sims-led Arizona State offense have some success moving the football. When you look at Arizona going into this game, Fafita's played better lately, been able to move the ball on offense for the Wildcats. And obviously the matchup here that's of interest to me is the fact that they're a stronger passing team, Arizona, and the weaker part of Arizona State's defense is their secondary. So you put those two things together, Arizona should put up points here. I think at home as a 1-point dog, I lean Arizona State, but it is revenge for Arizona. They got blasted by this team last year. It wouldn't shock me if Arizona wins, but I'd much prefer the total. I like over 48.5 in this one. All right, let's move along to Air Force, Colorado State. Air Force 1.5-point road favorites, 45 the total here in this game. I already bet Colorado State. I think Air Force is just about ready to tap out. That was a pretty despondent effort, and you don't normally say that about a service academy team. But last week against New Mexico was pretty rough. Kemper Hodges taking over for Zarka, who has been shut down for the season at quarterback. The defense getting gashed. Not a team I'm really all that excited about laying with on the road going into this game. And I know Colorado State has been atrocious. So, it's not like they're a cinch to get the job done here. They've lost 4 in a row, and they haven't scored 5 in a row, and they haven't scored more than, I believe, 20 points in any of these games either. 21, actually, against Boise, but they gave up 49. So 0-5 in their last 5 games. Not easy to take Colorado State right now, but like I said, Air Force, they look like they're spent. They've run out of gas. They've played they had to play the UConn game. That was a tough game for them. They've really gone through the wear and tear of this schedule down the stretch. I think it's worn them down, and missing Zarka is hurt. So I can't be alone because the money has come in on Colorado State, and it's more so fate of Air Force than a ringing endorsement of Colorado State. But I think Colorado State is still probably worth a shot here in this game as a slight home underdog. I certainly don't want Air Force, and that is why I think it's either, for me at least, Colorado State or nothing. Keep an eye on the status of Jackson Brusso here for the Colorado State Rams. He didn't play against Boise over the weekend, ruled out with an undisclosed injury. It was Darius Curry who stepped in and was the quarterback for Colorado State against Boise State last week. So we'll see if they turn to Curry once again, or if perhaps they get back in the lineup, back on the field, Jackson Brusso for this game. All right, next up, we've got Georgia and Georgia Tech. Georgia 13-point road favorites, 59 the total here in this game. This is a fascinating one because Georgia Tech, obviously the loss last week against Pitt. You can't start the game that poorly and expect to win. And it was pretty alarming to see just how bad things were out of the gate for Georgia Tech in that game. I mean, it was an avalanche. They couldn't stop Pitt, and then they turned it over, and they fueled the Pitt onslaught even more, and it was just ugly. Early in that game, it got away from them. They tried to make a run right before halftime, but then Pitt pulled away again in the fourth quarter, losing 42-28. This defense has just collapsed. It's pretty stunning to see just how bad the defense has been 3 weeks in a row. C.J. Bailey and NC State roll up 48 points. Boston College, who have not been an offensive machine down the stretch, they put up 34 points and over 500 yards. So what has happened to Brent Key's defense? 42 points to Pitt last week. They have just struggled mightily on that side of the football. You got to think Gunnar Stockton and Georgia are going to move the football pretty effectively here in this game. Now, this is a rematch of last year where Georgia Tech had Georgia beat, it looked like, on multiple occasions, couldn't finish the deal, and Georgia survives with a 44-42 win in overtime over Georgia Tech. In that game, it was 27-27 going to overtime in that game. Now, interesting that 54 points in regulation. That game went over the total, but if it hadn't gone to overtime, the game probably would have stayed under the total. So just an interesting little fact about that. Massive revenge spot for Georgia Tech, but how it's even getting these points, I lean Georgia Tech, but how do you trust them to get stops right now against Georgia, or anybody for that matter? Like NC State, Boston College, and Pitt have just destroyed this defense 3 weeks in a row. I'd much prefer the over in this game because the one thing I will get from Georgia Tech, their offense is still somewhat capable. And with Haynes King playing his final game in the regular season for Georgia Tech. Now, I do want to mention this is a neutral field game. This is not on either campus in Athens or in Atlanta. This is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the Falcons. So it's a neutral field for this game. I'd probably much prefer looking over the total here in this game because Georgia's been an over machine. It's hard to, or Georgia Tech, I should say, has been an over machine, and it's been because their defense can't stop anything right now. So Georgia should get theirs. Georgia Tech can probably have enough success because don't forget how successful Georgia Tech was last year against Georgia, running that football against Georgia. They had a lot of success, 260 rushing yards, and Haynes King had over 300 passing yards. It was a very impressive showing for Georgia Tech's offense. And I've said this about Georgia's defense this year. I don't think it's been as great start to finish as we've seen in the past. They've had games where they've given up points as well. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Florida got into the 20s. They did do a good job against Texas in their last game. But like I said, that Georgia power run game really did some damage against them. So I like the over. I want to take Georgia Tech. I have a hard time doing it, though, with the state of that defense right now, which is just kind of in shambles at the moment. All right, next up, we've got looks like San Diego State and New Mexico. What a job by Jason Eck, the head coach of New Mexico, to get this team in position, possibly to be in the Mountain West Championship game, which would be one hell of an accomplishment for sure. San Diego State, 1.5-point road favorites. The total here, 41.5 in this game. Why not take New Mexico? I like this team. I like this team quite a bit. Now, you're playing a San Diego State team that does have a very good defense. No question about that. And when you look at New Mexico, team that wants to be able to run the football, be balanced, and they can be balanced. They're pretty close, actually, as far as their run-pass balance is concerned. This is not going to be easy because San Diego State's strength by far is their defense. But, Jack Lane throwing the football has been very solid for New Mexico. And then the run game has complemented it very well so far for this team. And even though San Diego State, like I said, the Aztecs have been very solid defensively. They completely shut down San Jose State at home last week, Boise State at home the week before, Wyoming at home, Fresno, they had a shutout. On the road, there's still some questions to me because let's not forget, their two toughest road games all year. Washington State back in week 2, they lost 36-13. And then Hawaii on the island to Mike Alejado and the Warriors, they allowed 38 points and they lost 38-6. Their other road wins were Fresno, Nevada, Northern Illinois. I don't think any of those teams were as good offensively as New Mexico, especially with the way Jason X coordinated this team. So I'm going to be on New Mexico here. They've been that good. I trust them on their home field. This is one of the bigger, home games that we have seen this team have in quite some time. They're going to, Jason X on social media saying, fill the stadium here in Albuquerque. These players deserve it for the way they've played this year. You might finally get one hell of an atmosphere for a New Mexico home game here in this one. And again, with them right now currently at 5-2, they're right there with Boise, UNLV, teams that still have a chance to face, San Diego State in all likelihood in the Mountain West Championship game. So huge stakes here, big time game. San Diego State, likely can still get to the Mountain West Championship game even if they lose, but it's not a sure thing that even with a loss they'd get there. They'd certainly punch their ticket if they win, but I like what I'm seeing from New Mexico. And obviously an incredible job here by Jason Eck. His team's won 4 straight. They've got a 5-0 home record. San Diego State has shown some blemishes on the road. That's enough for me to take New Mexico here. I like the Lobos, plus 1.5 here at home against the Aztecs. All right, Boise State and Utah State next up. We've got Boise State, 3-point road favorites, 55.5 the total in this game. I'm trying to figure out if last week was Colorado State's just that bad, or did the Boise State quarterback finally get a little confidence and swagger and mojo going? That's really the big question I have going into this game. Because I'll be honest, the first few times we saw Cutforth at quarterback for Boise State replacing Maddox Madsen, it was pretty ugly. The Fresno game, the San Diego State game, and then they roll up 49 points last week against Colorado State. But again, Colorado State's had a pretty bad defense all year. We'll see if the Boise quarterback's able to duplicate that here. Not to mention, actually, there's a chance that we may not see Max Cutforth again at quarterback because Maddox Madsen hasn't been ruled out of this game. Spencer Danielson says there's still a possibility he returns for this game at Utah State. So definitely something you're going to want to keep an eye on to see if he's going to be able to play in this game. Utah State, solid win on the road for them at Fresno State last week, getting the job done there in that game. You know, you look at Boise, obviously on the road this year. We see what they've done. They beat Nevada. They beat Air Force when Air Force was kind of struggling, but they lost to South Florida, Notre Dame. They did lose to San Diego State with Cutforth at quarterback in their last road game. If it's Cutforth, I'm absolutely on Utah State here. If it's Madsen, maybe we'll think twice about it, but the early week lean is Utah State, +3 for me in this game. Again, keep an eye on the status of who's going to be the quarterback for Boise. Don't forget, though, you got Bryson Barnes on the other side, who's had a very good season here for Utah State, been able to move the football for them to a pretty successful degree. Nice win for them, like I said, against Fresno. Last week, they've scored 51, 26, and 28 in their last 3 games, covered all 3. So still do lean Utah State here. All right, next up, we've got a big one on Friday night. Texas A&M taking on Texas. We've got A&M 2.5 point road favorites, 51.5 the total in this game. Here's another one. Yes, Arch Manning and the Texas offense looked outstanding last week. Could make an argument that was their best game of the season. But how much of it was them? How much of it was Arkansas just with their embarrassing, horrendous defense? How much do you give Texas credit, and how much do you chalk it up to, you know what? Arkansas's defense is that freaking pathetic. So now we'll see what they can do offensively here against A&M. But again, it was definitely a much better game from Arch and the Longhorns on the offensive side of the football. The defense is still a problem, though, for Texas. This defense really all year has been kind of overrated. Like Arkansas was matching them point for point early in the game. Now, eventually, Texas's defense started to shut them down, but this is still not a team that's played great defense. They've given up 35 to Georgia, 31 to Vanderbilt, 38 to Mississippi State, 29 to Florida in a loss. This defense just hasn't been anywhere close to the group that I think we thought Steve Sarkisian's defense would have this year, and it just hasn't played that way. When you look at A&M, both teams, by the way, actually A&M, if I'm not mistaken, no, A&M did play last week, but they played Stanford, so you might as well call it a bye week. But they beat Stanford 48-0 in that game. A&M's been a great run. It has. Outside of falling asleep in the first half against South Carolina, where they had a bad first half, but they rallied to win that game. Outside of that, they've been dominant. But start to look at the schedule. Since they beat Notre Dame, what have they proven? They've proven they can beat mediocre to below average, disappointing SEC teams. Auburn, below average, disappointing. Mississippi State, below average. Florida, below average, disappointing. Arkansas, disappointing. LSU, very disappointing. Missouri, with a backup quarterback. Zollers played that game for Missouri. South Carolina, and they got down big, and they needed the escape of a lifetime there. And then you played Stanford last week. You know what I mean? They haven't played really a bunch of great teams. They haven't beaten. There's no Georgia. There's no Alabama. There's no Ole Miss. Where the hell's the top teams that they've faced here in the SEC? I don't see it. So truly, we have to ask ourselves, how good is Texas A&M? And even though Texas in all likelihood, can't make the playoff, I don't think a win here would get them back in it. I think they've just lost too many games already. But if there's one game Texas is going to be sky high for to stick it to A&M, it's going to be here. You're going to get Texas all in for this game. So I thought for sure I was going to be betting Texas A&M when I saw this number -2.5. But the more I look at this schedule, it's a pansy schedule. Samford, South Carolina, Mizzou with a backup QB, LSU who collapsed, Arkansas who stink, Florida who've collapsed, Mississippi State who are still down the food chain and pecking order, Auburn who've had a disappointing year. Like there's no signature quality win of substance for Texas A&M since the game where they beat Notre Dame and only beat them by 1 point, by the way. And winning by 1 point is not going to cover the year against Texas. So I guess that concerns me enough to not take A&M here. I like this over more than anything. I think Marcel Reed and the Aggies can move the ball. Texas's defense been overrated from day one. And maybe, just maybe, we can buy into offensive improvement the last few weeks from Arch Manning and the Longhorns offense. Because keep in mind, look at A&M's opposing offenses. Sellers in South Carolina, and even there they put up 30. Mizzou with a backup. LSU offense has been disappointing all year. They could barely score points against Western Kentucky last week. Florida's offense disappointing. Arkansas, they gave up 42 points. Texas A&M's defense. So I think Texas can probably move the ball and score points, and I certainly think A&M can. So I like this over 51.5. I think it's too low. It's too cheap in this game. I think both teams can have success offensively. I'll be honest, I'm leaning Texas. I look at the schedule. The more I really look at it, and I'm like, what the hell has Texas A&M been doing in this SEC schedule right now? So it's a great game, though. It's a very fascinating game. I'm just scared off by the light schedule of SEC. Like, they haven't faced an Alabama. They haven't faced a Georgia. They haven't faced Ole Miss this season. Any of those top-tier teams in this conference. So it concerns me a little bit for the Aggies going into this one. All right, next up, we've got the Old Oaken Bucket. Indiana taking on Purdue. Indiana is a 28.5 point road favorite, 54 the total in this game. This is probably a lay it or don't play it spot for me. And I like Barry Odom, and I think this team is certainly moving gradually in the right direction, but this just might be too tall of an order, for Purdue going into this game against Indiana. It's worth noting with Purdue, they've kind of seen, the bottom fall out a little bit in a couple of these games of late. 49-13 against Washington, losing that game. Both teams had the extra week to prepare in the bye week, so we'll see. Indiana hasn't covered 2 in a row. I will say that. So this is a pretty big number, 28.5. I don't think I'm going to end up betting, certainly not the side in this game. We'll see about the total. Last year, I want to point out, it was 66-0 for Indiana against Purdue. We'll see how this one plays out. The year before, it was 35-31 Purdue at home against Indiana. We'll see. It doesn't look like there's going to be any weather issues in West Lafayette for Friday night. Ryan Brown still at quarterback for Purdue. It looks like he's going to play this last game as well. He's obviously out of a tumultuous season with interceptions. He hasn't completed 60%. There's been some good moments, and he can run with the football, but just a lot of decision-making problems for Ryan Brown. Fernando Mendoza and company have been very good, at the offensive end for Indiana. So this is another one where, total might be just a little bit too low here. 54 would lean over. I just don't want to lay more than 4 touchdowns, and Barry Odom with extra time to prepare. He's a good coach, and he's already gotten Purdue, I think, more competitive. I know 2-9 is the record, but you look at Purdue and, they were decent against Ohio State. They were right in the game against Michigan. They gave USC a tough game. They've already had some nice moments, and wait till he gets his players in there. Purdue, I think, is definitely headed in the right direction under Barry Odom, but that doesn't mean I want to take them here or get in the way of Indiana, who are trying to, cement their status in the Big Ten championship game right now. All right, next up, we've got Temple and North Texas. North Texas, 20-point home favorites, 65.5 the total here in this game. Very disappointing from Temple, against Tulane last weekend. I thought they'd play better than that. They really didn't. The offense couldn't get much going. Defense got pretty much taken apart most of that game by the Jake Retzloff and the Tulane offense. So now you're going on the road for this finale. I don't know if I want to trust Temple necessarily here. This could be a North Texas team total over, final home game spot for North Texas. And again, they are on the periphery of the AAC championship picture. Chance to be in the AAC championship game, and the playoff is not totally out of the equation for North Texas. So putting up points matters to this football team. And just look at last week. They had a chance to punch it in late against UAB or 2 weeks ago. They did that, and punched in a late touchdown there in that game. You look at the game last week against Rice, 56-24. Again, 14 of those points in the fourth quarter. They didn't stop scoring. So again, the style points argument comes into play here a little bit for this North Texas team. So like I said, I think definitely a situation where, by the way, I just want to interrupt this to say it's a cable outage for CMAC. So there we go. There we go. Just let him. Can you believe it? For timing, how bad that is. Boy, oh boy. Cable outage for Connor Mack right as we're doing the show. Sucks, but yeah, North Texas team total over. I think that's the only thing. Doesn't I'm not saying I will be betting that, but I definitely lean in that direction. The team total is 42.5, 43.5. Again, North Texas may not stop scoring or trying to score. They are in the hunt to be in the AAC championship game. They are still in the hunt for the college football playoff to be the group of 5 representative in the college football playoff. So those are reasons why North Texas might be looking for style points here in this game against Temple. And again, when you look at Temple, they've struggled against the best offenses, right? 45 they allowed to East Carolina, 45 to Georgia Tech, 42 to Oklahoma, 32 to Navy. Yeah, North Texas probably going to score their points. Drew Mestamaker's had a really nice season at quarterback for them. All right, that's Friday. We'll turn the page now to Saturday and look at the Florida State-Florida rivalry game. We've got Florida 1.5 point home favorites, 50.5 the total in this game. No way am I taking Florida State on the road. That's it. I've seen enough. This team on the road is just not any good. I mean, we've seen so many instances already of this team struggling away from Tallahassee, and it continued last week. Terrible performance offensively against NC State. They lose outright, wire to wire against the Wolfpack in that game. They're just not good on the road. I mean, that's all there is to it. And the problem here is Florida. Florida looked like they quit a little bit. Florida looked like a team that's ready for their season to end with that performance against Tennessee. I mean, the offense was terrible. DJ Lagway and company couldn't get anything going. The defense was gashed and ripped apart. Tennessee showed a little mercy and called off the Dogs, but for over 3 quarters, for all 3 quarters of that game, that defense could not stop anything Tennessee was throwing at them. 31-11. They look like they're ready to get the season over with, maybe with that performance. So it's a tough game. The Florida State on the road, no chance, no way. 0-4 now, straight up and against the spread on the road. Losses to Virginia as favorites, Stanford as favorites, Clemson, and then, of course, NC State last week. Again, 0-4 straight up and against the spread as favorites this year. 0-4 straight up and against the spread this year, Florida State on the road. But where's Florida's head at? So I lean Florida, but I gotta find something in the quotes of the interim coaching staff or some of the players that say they're ready to finish the season the right way with a strong effort here against their rival, because that looked like a team showing signs of quit Saturday night against Tennessee. And that's an ABC game at home against a SEC East division rival. And it looked like you quit. It looked like you rolled over. So that's why I'm hesitating to bet Florida here in this game, even though I know I want no part of Florida State on the road. All right, Texas Tech, West Virginia. Texas Tech, 23.5 point road favorites, 53.5 the total here in this game. Obviously, Texas Tech controlling their own destiny, looking to get to the Big 12 championship game. Certainly should be able to do it and win this game. The question is, do you want to lay this many points for Texas Tech? We'll see about that. We know their offense has certainly been very, very good, and we would expect them to move the football here with success against West Virginia in this game. West Virginia, down the stretch, you got to give Rich Rod a little bit of credit because they've been certainly competitive. And Scotty Fox, who's taken over at quarterback for West Virginia. Has given them a little shot in the arm on the offensive side of the football. But West Virginia enters this game, on a nice little point spread covering streak, believe it or not. It's been a nice little run here down the stretch. They've covered 4 straight, 6-point loss at home to TCU. They won outright as dogs at Houston. They covered as a home favorite against Colorado. 10-point dogs at Arizona State. They only lose by 2. And another thing to point out here about this game is, this is their home finale. So they'll be amped up here. Both teams are off a bye, by the way, so there's no advantage either way. You just wonder, though, if they're going to be able to slow down and stop Texas Tech, West Virginia, that is, because this is still a team that gave up 35 to Houston. Okay, Texas Tech's offense is worlds better than Houston. UCF got 45 against them. BYU got 38 against them. Utah got 48 against them. So, again, this is probably an over game. Texas Tech can probably score their 40s. And can Scotty Fox find a way to 14 or 17? I think he can, because, look, the West Virginia offense has perked up here a little bit in the last few games. So the over is what I like the most. It's a lot of points to be laying with Texas Tech. It really is, especially with West Virginia on a little point spread covering streak. I'd probably prefer West Virginia's team total over, because I don't think they're stopping Texas Tech. I don't think their defense is good enough to stop Texas Tech. And Texas Tech wants to finish things the right way. So if I were to even consider the West Virginia side, I'd probably prefer the team total pathway and their team total is 14.5. I'd probably prefer that than taking the 23.5 points again, because I think Texas Tech's going to be able to get their points in bunches here. All right, let's continue along here. Next up, we've got Vanderbilt, Tennessee. It's Tennessee, Tennessee 3-point home favorites, 64.5 the total here in this game. This is a great game. Looking forward to it. These two in-state rivals going head-to-head. A little Nashville versus Knoxville going on here in this battle between Vandy and Tennessee. Two good quarterbacks. Joey Aguilar more through the air. Diego Pavia more with his legs, although he is still capable, obviously, of throwing the football. Tennessee off the big win against Florida, 31-11. We'll see if they can carry that over here to this game against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had a bye 2 weeks ago, came out of the bye and just steamrolled Kentucky 45-17 last week. We'll see how this one plays out. I hate to be repetitive with overs. I seem to like a lot of overs on this card, but this is another one. I think we're going to see points. Vanderbilt's turned into a bit of an over team here down the stretch of the season. Their defense hasn't been shutting it down nearly as much. I think part of that is because, look, the quality of competition has gone up a little bit for Clark Lee's team. There's going to be no weather issues here in Neyland Stadium on Saturday. Very light wind, no rain at all. The last 2 meetings have gone over the total, 59 and 60, or 72 and 59 points. Tennessee has won 5 straight against Vanderbilt, all by double digits. So that's the concern, right? I mean, all this success for Vanderbilt, and yet the last couple of years, and yet they still have had trouble beating Tennessee. So we'll see how they fare here in this one. I still kind of want to take Vanderbilt. I think Diego Pavia is one of those insane psychopaths where he's going to want to end his final year in college football, if at least for the regular season, finally beating Tennessee and saying he could finally beat Tennessee, which he hasn't been able to say to this point. I would want to bet against his will here in a game like this. So, slight lean to Vanderbilt here, +3. I like the over more, though. 64.5 is the total here in this game. I think we'll probably see both offenses have their share of success moving the football. Because, again, like I said, Vanderbilt's defense, 38 allowed to Auburn, 34 allowed to Texas. We've seen them struggle. But their offense, man, 31, 45, and 45 points scored the last 3 games. So, yeah, the over probably going to be a bet worth looking at here in this game. All right, next up, we've got Kentucky and Louisville, another in-state rivalry here on Saturday. Louisville, 3.5-point home favorites, 47.5 the total in this game. I think I got to be on Kentucky here. Now, do I love the situation for Kentucky? No. Obviously, they got steamrolled by Vandy last week. But Louisville, I was worried, obviously, after they lost the game to Cal, that it would start a little bit of a late season swoon for them. And I'm telling you what, we're starting to see that right now from this Louisville team. They've not finished the season all that great. You look at their recent results. The Cal loss was the start of it, and then they lose another gut wrencher to Clemson right after that, and then they get absolutely destroyed by SMU, 38-6 last week in that game. So that was about as ugly as it gets for Louisville. Of course, Miller Moss has been banged up. They've got several of their skill position group players also banged up here in this game. Moss struggled against SMU. Like I said, a lot of concerns here for Louisville, in a spot here where they're laying more than a field goal. And that doesn't even mention yet the dominance in the recent series for Kentucky. Kentucky has definitely had the better of it, although Louisville finally got the better of Kentucky last year, defeating them 41-14. But Kentucky looking for a little bit of redemption here. Now, I know Cutter Boley is let's put it this way, a work in progress as far as the quarterback position is concerned. And last week, kind of typical of him where he had some good moments, 280 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But again, also had a few mistakes in that game as well. So, like I said, all kinds of, issues and concerns right now for this Louisville team. Psychologically, there's issues right now with Louisville, with just this losing streak and, injuries in the skill position group that are concerning right now. That's definitely something to factor into this game. Is how healthy is Miller Moss right now? The losses consecutively to Cal, Clemson, SMU, and now, it's just, there's a lot of warning signs of a team that I don't trust, at the moment, laying 3.5 points. So, yeah, right now it's Kentucky plus 3.5. I lean that way. It would not surprise me if this makes my card in some form, but yeah, it's Kentucky or pass for me in that game. All right, Clemson and South Carolina. We've got South Carolina 2.5 point home favorites, 46.5 the total. Dabo goes overboard. And Dabo Sweeney down the stretch here of what's been a disappointing season has turned this into a us against the world with his team. That you guys thought we were going to roll over and die and quit, and we're showing you here down the stretch we're playing with some heart, with some character. And to his credit, they are. Give Clemson, we do have to give Clemson some credit for that. Because this season they thought they'd be in the ACC title picture, maybe in the playoff, and they didn't even get close to that this season. So, like I said, we're looking at this as a situation right now where Clemson is fighting the good fight here down the stretch of there he is, C-Mac back in the house. C-Mac.
I'm glad that was short. This is back because I was worried I was going to be out for 2 hours. Fucking.
There he is. He's back. All right, getting back to Clemson, South Carolina. They've obviously played with some good spirit here down the stretch. There's no question about that. They could have easily beaten Duke. Florida State, they had a good game, and obviously they beat Louisville as well. So you give Dabo, he's rallied the troops, and of course, they played Furman last week. Can't make too big of a deal of that. But the bottom line is they're playing hard. They're playing inspired. They're not rolling over this Clemson team, and that showed me a lot. And this is a rivalry game, and I would, they've shown me good effort the last few weeks. Why wouldn't they bring good effort here? They could have rolled over weeks ago, and they haven't. And they lost a heartbreaker last year to South Carolina, 17-14 in this head-to-head matchup. Meanwhile, you've got South Carolina coming in here following, they faced a Coastal Carolina team that was down up to the backup quarterback, Tad Hudson, who isn't any good anyway, and they drilled them 51-7, and that's a pretty bad Coastal defense. But let's not forget that before that, this team had lost 5 in a row in SEC play. LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M, they lost all 5. Now, obviously, tough competition, no question about that. But, other than beating Kentucky, they've got one SEC win, and that was against Kentucky. I kind of lean Clemson here, quite honestly. I think for revenge of last year, this team is playing inspired down the stretch. They're not quitting on the season. And South Carolina is a favorite. That's just not something I'm interested in. So lean Clemson here. Again, haven't bet it. Not sure I will, but at this number, it's Clemson for me. C-Mac, what do you think here? Clemson, South Carolina State, South Carolina.
I think this game's tough here. Clemson, like you talked about, playing a little bit better. They want to go bowling too. They need another win here. 5-5. And you hit it right on the head.
South Carolina can't. Like the 4 wins is the most they're going to get if they win.
Yeah.
This. Yep.
They can't. It's tough to even lay a point or two. I mean, if you really like South Carolina, just take a money line. They don't win football games.
No.
If you're not like, so I don't know how they do here. After how do you get? I mean, the easy win, but just the great first half, only to lose it to A&M 2 weeks ago. It's just horrible. The Alabama game too. They were winning that most of that game and gave it up. Could they play well early? It's kind of a thought for South Carolina. They just haven't been able to put four quarters together. So it's tough for me to get here too with them. This is one I think I just got to be off. Their defense needs to come to play. Their defense is big. They win this game because they're just not a team that I don't think can win a shootout. And I think Clemson probably has a better defense here overall. Maybe not by a ton, but yeah. Good game. I don't really want to bet it.
Yeah, I'll make a case for Clemson. The total's tricky. I don't know. The total could go either way here.
Yeah.
This game. Remember, I thought it was going to be an over last year, and it was 17-14. It stayed way under. So, yeah, I'm not really high on the total either way in this game. All right, C-Mac, you have the games list. We're not going to get C-Mac's thoughts on every game that he missed, but I'm going to give you the opportunity right now, and also me the opportunity to get a drink of water because my voice is a little scratchy right now. The games that you did not talk about, I think you dropped out when it was Utah, Kansas. I think that was the game where you dropped out. And so everything from Utah, Kansas down to the game we just talked about, if there's any strong opinion you have on any of those games, now's the time. Go for it. I'll be back.
Yeah, well, I don't have a ton of strong opinions on a ton of these games. Not normal. I think one of the biggest ones was Georgia Tech here, a team that just probably played their worst football game where they may be looking ahead here this coming week. I think so. What do you make of Georgia? Does people think this team now is rolling? Classic Georgia, as we talked last week, Bavano, with they just score 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, shut it down. Charlotte with the cover there. I loved it. So, and we mentioned this team's gotten better a little bit as years gone on. Early in games, I just think the full effort here is for Georgia Tech. I think they'll be able to run the football. So I like them. There. Next, the only other couple that I have here is I want Texas. I haven't wanted to fade A&M. I haven't since the beginning of the year, where I think Utah State covered early on. I know Texas is off the big win here, but I think this is a huge game. Texas A&M has done nothing. Everyone's going to love them. They've done nothing but go on the road, win. Texas A&M, big time. I think Texas has enough here with the defense. Listen, Manning looked better. That's a shitty defense in Arkansas. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't think you go crazy over that. But I think Texas wants nothing better to beat A&M in this game. You know what I also like is the over. I
mentioned that. Yep.
Did you? Okay. I think Texas, has.
And I mentioned it about A&M. I'll just quickly reiterate it. I'm looking at this schedule, and there's no Bama on it. There's no Georgia on it. There's no Ole Miss on it. Since that Notre Dame win, they've beaten South Carolina, disappointing. Florida, disappointing. Arkansas stinks. It's just been one mediocre
Auburn.
Auburn, a disappointing year. Coach fired. Florida, coach fired. Arkansas, coach fired. Bad team, bad defense. Like this resume is not that good, guys, for Texas A&M, and we're acting like they're hands down one of the absolute, no doubt about it, best teams in the country.
Listen,
what are we doing?
They're very good. They're not though. I know they're not. You talked about it. The Notre Dame course was huge. I'd love to see that.
They were going to lose that game until they got the drive of 10 seconds left there. Yep.
Yeah, and they got to stop. I'd like to see them play again. Really, I think Notre Dame would get them.
I'm not saying Texas is great; they're not. But Texas played Ohio State and Alabama, Georgia. You know, they've cut their teeth on some really good, tough opponents. Other than Notre Dame, that's all that A&M's got to show for themselves, pretty much.
I think they'll be able to move on, and I just don't think they can stop this offense completely from A&M and Reed. But that's why I was leaning. I think this could get over maybe, but I'm on Texas.
LSU, there's another LSU. How good's beating LSU looking right now? Another discipline.
Western Kentucky. This is the easiest dog of the weekend.
Yeah.
Like just LSU win by 25. Come on now.
People were
that was it
over A&M. I remember right after they beat LSU, and now you look back on it, and it's just another win in a laundry list of mediocre opponents they beat.
Yes.
Play. So that concerns me, guy. I'm not saying that Texas A&M can't win this game. They clearly can. They're a talented team. Texas still has issues too, but I'm just saying there's definitely a case to be made for Texas if you like that side.
And they, at home, this will be raucous crowd. I mean, they want to beat A&M. An undefeated A&M team?
Yep.
Come on.
Yep. Be careful here. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Be careful here. I think that's why it's a great game to watch. It's very.
I think most people that watch college football, most Joes, they'll love Texas A&M. They're going to see at 2.5 under a field goal. This is golden.
Right. How do we not bet that? Right. That's
how do we not bet that?
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Next up, we have Wake Forest and Duke. Let me just see here. Let me get my spot back. There we go. Duke, 2.5-point home favorites, 55 the total in this game. This feels like one of those keep it simple handicaps. Who's got the better defense and who's got the better defense by a wide margin? Oh, yeah, that would be Wake Forest. It's a Wake Forest lean for me. Duke's obviously definitely got the better, more explosive offense. Darian Mensah, I'll take him over Robbie Ashford. But there's no doubt whose defense has been better here this season, and that's Wake Forest. And like I said, for Duke, it's been a season where their defense just hasn't played up to the standards we kind of thought it would. Look, Wake Forest played Delaware last week. Duke coming off the big win against a rival in NC State, whereas Wake Forest coming in off Delaware. So I think for Wake, they're less wear and tear. Maybe they put more prep into this game than maybe Duke did because Duke had to play North Carolina, another rival last week. I think for me, it's Wake Forest or nothing in this game. C-Mac, what do you think? Wake, Duke?
I think so too. I'm just want a push where I was like, man, on North Carolina. I'm ballsy on the fake field goal. It just down one, then they get the 2. So I was like, you're this close, thinking the ticket is easily winning, and then it's a push. So that was on Saturday for me. But that was a great call there. I still don't like this defense here. Like, it leads me more and more. I know Duke, they're not great. There could be points, but I lean under here with Wake. I know it's on the road, but I think this game will be tight. Of course, these teams don't like each other either, Wake and Duke. So I think they're live here early. And you talked about the better defense. I always am interested there. And with Duke, I know there's been certain games, but they've just turned the ball over. They're just a team that can't back, laying anything at all. So under and Wake for me.
All right, here we go. The annual rivalry renewed Saturday, big noon on Fox with Gus screaming his lungs out. Ohio State and Michigan. We've got Ohio State 10-point road favorites, 44.5 the total in this game. I don't know. I've been a huge fan of Gus for years and decades. He's starting to wear on me, man. Maybe it's me getting older, I think now
he's over the top like crazy.
Like, it's like the Indiana Penn State game at the end. Oh, Mari Cooper! Wow! I mean, come on. That's just the Mari Cooper! Unbelievable! Oh my goodness! It's just that got a little over the top there, as far as that call. I mean, I just a little bit, like rein it in a little bit. Are we going to hear the world famous Ohio State here Saturday from him? He says that too.
I mean, he was go crazy emotional. Like, I was thinking, man, this guy's got money on this fucking game or something. Something strange. Like, he was way
not Amari Cooper, Omar Cooper, I should say.
Yeah,
Omar Cooper. Yeah. Wow. That's how his voice sounded during that thing. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think I got to be on Michigan here. I mean, they're getting 10 and a half at home. I'm sick of falling into this trap where every year in recent memory, Ohio State comes into this game against Michigan, playing great, looking like they can't be stopped. And then they play Michigan and they fall apart into disintegrate into thin air and just, turn into a puddle on the football field. It's happened year in and year out. Some of these games, I'm like, how the hell can I step in front of Ohio State? And then they play Michigan, and Michigan beats them, as they've beaten them 4 straight times. 3 of those times as underdogs. I can't do it. I can't be on Ohio State. That much I know. By default, it's Michigan or pass for me here in this game. Like I said, I've seen it before, and I've seen it with really good Ohio State teams, including a national championship Ohio State team last year. They're rolling going into the Michigan game, and even that team lost to Michigan. Now they got their shit together, and they went on the run in the playoff after losing to Michigan. Maybe that was a wake-up call for them with Will Howard and company last year. But still, I mean, there's just too much data points from the last 4 years where every year Ohio State's looking good, revving it up, beating your Rutgers of the world and Marylands of the world and Northwesterns of the world the week before playing Michigan and looks so good. And then you think, wow, how does Michigan hang? How does Michigan compete? And all Michigan does is compete, and in 4 straight years beat them outright. 3 of them as underdogs. Can't lay 10. Michigan or pass for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
I don't think I'm going to get involved in this game. You know what it has to be is last year's game, that style of game. Because all those games before that, remembering Ohio State, Michigan, they've written a bunch of points. There's just been lower totals and a ton of points last year. We get it because Michigan has to hang on some of their defense. I just have a problem with Michigan. It's just this is a huge rivalry. Is I don't know how they move the ball. Like I think this is the best defense in the country. I keep talking about it. I looked at this. I need 17.5. I mean, I see a lot of 16.5 team total with Michigan. Like teams just haven't got there in the end, flat out. So yeah, I was looking Michigan
45 against Maryland last week, but you have to remember it's Maryland's defense. It's, big difference.
Oh yeah, but Michigan's defense is good. I just think Ohio State. I don't know how Michigan is going to do anything in this game. They better have a really good game plan, control the clock, hold on to the ball, no turnovers to stay tight. So, yeah, this might just be a watch. Wait for me. Ohio State rolling too. This is like you're talking about, not only winning, they're winning ATS week in and week out. They're covering numbers. I mean, that's how dominant they've been.
We have to admit, barely. Even last week against Rutgers, that was not looking like they were going to cover at one point. And then all of a sudden, they bust big runs, and they did. But like I said, it's just too stark a track record of them just stumbling. And Ryan Day seeing ghosts when they play Michigan. I don't know what it is. So I just can't lay 10.
It's weird because
maybe this is the year, but I can't do it. I won't do it.
Yeah, just a little run for Michigan after Ohio State kind of went on that run of beating them. It seemed like 10 years in a row before this 4 straight.
I will say this, though. Julian Sayin has been very good completion rate, and he's limited mistakes, which has been good to see. All right, Maryland, Michigan State. Michigan State, 4.5-point home favorites in this game, 48.5 the total. This game's at Ford Field, by the way, neutral field here in Detroit for this Maryland-Michigan State game. This one is, look, Milivojevic has taken over at quarterback. He was a lot better last week, against Iowa. I give him credit. Actually played a solid game on the road against a pretty good team. Maryland got blown out last week by Michigan, 45-20. Certainly an edge for Michigan State with this game being at Ford Field in Detroit as far as representation of the fan base. But do I want to lay 4.5 now? I get it. Maryland's tough to back. Probably do lean Michigan State, but laying 4.5, I'm going to have to think twice about it. C-Mac, what do you think here?
This is the same. I mean, how can you lay even 4.5 with the team on that's lost what? 7 straight?
Yep.
8 straight with Michigan State. One thing with Maryland, I think they could hang in this football game. It was tough where I thought they played better early. They did not, compared to early on in the year. They just weren't very good right away. Can Maryland run the ball a little bit? Michigan State against the run hasn't been great, but Maryland hasn't been a team that's ran it too much. Do you know what I mean? There's just no way. I guess I'd lean Maryland. These are probably teams at week 14, I don't think I want to get involved with.
All right, next up, NC State hosting North Carolina. NC State, 8-point home favorites, 47.5 the total in this game. This is lay it or don't play it for me, and that's almost unheard of in a rivalry game. But, when you look at North Carolina, they lose by 16 at Wake. They lose to Duke, 2 rivals. They're now no longer eligible for a bowl game. Bill Belichick and his team, the offense just continues to be a struggle as far as moving the football is concerned. Gio Lopez, I mean, he's been a big disappointment too. I think they expected him to be pretty good and just, hasn't been phenomenal by any stretch throwing the football consistently. The defense, just when it was starting to get a little bit better, struggled last week against Duke. You look at this head-to-head series, and NC State has won 4 straight. They probably make it 5. I know it's laying more than a touchdown now, but I think the writing's on the wall for North Carolina. Can Bill Belichick get one last big effort out of them here? Because that's Wake. This is the 3rd straight game in their own state in a rivalry situation. Wake, Duke, and now this. They look like a team that might be running out of gas a little bit, North Carolina, going into this game. And I'll say this about NC State. They've been good at home. They beat Georgia Tech at home. Florida State didn't do anything offensively last week at NC State against them. So finally the defense for NC State played better, and they've been good on this home field. So, yeah, it's lay it or don't play it for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
That's the lone thing here, how this team played at home last week. Are they really this improved? That's the biggest question mark for me. Dogs, Friday night, against the Florida State team, they have a ton of success in. I don't know. I still don't believe it. I think if a team has a defense like this, even at home, I can't be backed. No fucking way. So I like North Carolina. This is moved to 8. I think they have the better defense. I think they will move the football. It's just at home here for NC State with a pretty good offense. They want to get a win here, 6 wins, but I don't know if this is easy. I just think this game is tight in the end. Even after crazy in North Carolina, the game ends there with Duke and some of the mistakes that were made, the penalties, by the way. I think North Carolina at 12. I have to double check that. Yep. Going through after all these games, the box scores and looking at everything, it's like they got to clean that up. So I think people, a lot of people go to off last week, which is that for real? Is this, defense, and they are back at home, not as a favorite. Dog, different story. Give me North Carolina. So
that's a fair point, because they were a home dog last week against Florida State. Now they're a home favorite. So a little bit of a different situation here for NC State in this one. All right, head-to-head. I like it. All right, Miami and Pitt. We got Miami 7-point road favorites, 51.5 the total here in this game. Miami needs a lot to go right for them to be in the ACC championship game. They got to win, and they need help. They got to win, and then they need some help in order for it to happen. So that's going to end up being the big question here. They are off a pretty good showing against Virginia Tech, although they did kind of fall asleep with a big lead in that game and allowed Virginia Tech to cover the closing number, but they still won 34-17, third straight win for Miami, all three wins by double digits. But Pittsburgh's a little bit better than Syracuse, NC State, and Virginia Tech, and coming off a very impressive win of their own. To go down to Georgia Tech and lay the smackdown on the Yellow Jackets the way they did, very, very impressive stuff from Pitt. Mason Heinschel, this young quarterback. What I'm impressed with him is, look, sometimes when pressure comes his way, that's when he makes mistakes. But when he has a clean pocket, he's very accurate, can spin the football, but he can run, and he's got some toughness to him. Doesn't mind taking hits. Been very impressed with Mason Heinschel. This is Miami in a big spot, pressure all on them, laying 7 on the road in the cold of Pittsburgh. Remember, this is a Miami warm weather team, going up to Pitt for this game. I'm just checking the forecast right now for Friday. I'm looking at 34 degrees, barely above freezing in Pittsburgh on Saturday for this game. I mean, this is Pitt or nothing for me. You either take Pitt or you don't bet it. There's no chance in hell I'm taking Miami and Cristobal in a big spot in the cold for a warm weather team going up to Pitt in these spots, laying 7. Can't do it. And Pitt's rolling. Pitt's good at – now, Pitt got blasted by Notre Dame at home, but I don't know if Miami's capable of doing the same thing. And I like this Pitt offense. I think even though Miami's defense is pretty solid, Pitt's offense here at home is going to be able to keep them in this game. C-Mac, what do you think, Miami-Pitt? I got the wrong thing. I got Pirates. I did that again. It's not the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pittsburgh Panthers. There we go.
Panthers.
We'll just change that.
It's all right.
There we go.
A lot of games. A lot of stuff. Even last week, Miami, they get up pretty convincing. They let, Virginia Tech hang around a little bit, a team that can't score at all. This is you talked about. This is just Miami going to Pittsburgh, cold weather game. No way could I back to Pitt. One thing is, though, I think they'll be able to move the ball. This Miami defense, we talked a lot about. This was very, very good all year long. Miami, I don't know how much they'll be running. Pitt's run defense has been really, really good all year long. This team's, only 90 yards they've got. But I think they'll have some success against the secondary of Pittsburgh. It's always, too, they played such a great game. Like, just everything clicks. The turnovers, the pick six, the offense last week for Pittsburgh. But I think you're right. This is it. This is Pittsburgh or nothing in this game. And the other games where they lost at SMU, right? And where they go to Florida State, their first road game, they won by 6. Cover the number, basically a 4 or 5. But, yeah, Pittsburgh here.
All right.
I think dare to say they have the better coach. Pitt, what do you think?
I don't want to either, but
I know you don't.
I'd probably still.
You'll take him? I'll take him. I'll take him over.
Still,
Cristobal.
Although Cristobal does recruit better than him, but like I said, his coaching still, leaves a lot to be desired, especially in the big spots. All right, Penn State and Rutgers. Penn State 11.5-point road favorites, 55.5 rather the total. This is a tricky one. This is a live betting game, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't want to step in front of Penn State pregame because they're playing hard down the stretch. They're playing well. Grunkemeier's getting confidence. Katron Allen and Singleton are running the ball well. Their defense is starting to play good again. And if they show up to play here, they could win this by double digits because Rutgers is just not very good. But, was that all in for their final home game last week against Nebraska? There is a part of me that thinks now you're going on the road, meaningless road finale, that maybe you don't have that same intensity here. So if it looks early in this game like Penn State's a little wobbly, struggling, doesn't look like they're, totally locked in, dialed in, then maybe I'll live bet Rutgers early in this game. But I got to see it first. Because to me, if Penn State's dialed in like they have been, C-Mac, these last few weeks, Rutgers not going to hang with them in my opinion. C-Mac, what do you think here? Penn State, Rutgers.
I know. Pitt State, too, has always owned Rutgers. We do this year in and year out. It's like, I don't even know the last time Rutgers beat them.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth. I was thinking even a Penn State team total in this game. And it's a different Rutgers team that throws the ball, doesn't have a defense, because these games usually are unders. When you see a number like this, it'd be an under. And I think, of course, Penn State has a better defense. It's just, you mentioned the big win that they had looked very good. The
bowl
offense.
Eligibility. That is a good point there by
for Rutgers.
The chat. It is. This would be win number 6 if they do win. So maybe that does fire them up. Maybe they are into this because maybe they do want to go to a minor bowl game even after the shit show of a year they've had.
I know.
They're playing.
Because when I see this too, you know what I see here? Yeah, a team with motivation is a double-digit home dog. Come on, like it piques my interest a little bit.
Both of them are. They're both 5-6. Both teams playing for bowl eligibility here.
Yeah, it's a wait for me here in this game.
I agree. Boston College, Syracuse. I have nothing here. I have nothing here at all. I mean, I can't back either of these damn teams. Can't do it. Boston College is ridiculous. Is just a complete shambles, and Syracuse can't barely throw a forward pass. They have no quarterback to throw a forward pass right now. After what I saw against Syracuse, Notre Dame last week, so you have fun betting this game. I'm going to look elsewhere. You want to bet the team that's lost 10 in a row, Boston College, or the Syracuse team that's lost 6 in a row since Angeli went down to injury?
Yeah, this is what the book's telling you. Yeah. Bait you here. Yeah. You want BC 3.5,
Nothing.
Or you want to take Syracuse. You just can't move the football at all. I mean, if I had to, it'd be Boston College. These are some of the worst. This is the worst Boston College team I've seen for a long time. I mean, usually they're a team that at least is 500. This has been a disaster. So I agree. Looking at this game, can Syracuse all of a sudden score some points? I mean, we know this defense isn't great for BC. I mean, they haven't cracked 20 since at Clemson?
Yes.
I don't know how they get 20 points in this game. So I lean
one advantage is it's a bye week for Boston College. So the small advantage there. Yeah, Boston, if I had to, it would be Boston College, but like I said,
a lot of games.
None at all.
Yeah.
All right, Virginia Tech, Virginia. Virginia 10.5-point home favorites, 52.5 the total here in this game. Big time game, lots at stake for Virginia Tech. Let me see where they are in the standings right now. But Virginia Tech is currently at 3-8, so they can't even get to a bowl game right now. Virginia Tech. Virginia's playing to get into the ACC championship game, so that's what's so big here for Virginia. Everything's in front of them. What's been impressive about Virginia late in the season is, Chandler Morris has given them probably the best quarterback play they've had in a long time. And their defense has gotten so much better than where it was early in the year. They weren't stopping anybody on defense, and they were in a bunch of shootouts. But now you look at it, and it started with the win against Louisville, Washington State, North Carolina, Cal. They did have the loss to Wake Forest, but they still only gave up 16 points. Then they completely bottled up and shut down Duke in their last game before the bye week. And they have a bye week, extra time to prepare. I lean Virginia, but I just don't know if I want to lay this many points. In a rivalry game. And for Virginia Tech, if they're going to show up for one game, it's going to be this game. And you can't totally lose sight of the fact that they've dominated Virginia big time. 9-1 the last 10 meetings. They've won 4 straight. Trust me, if Virginia plays the way they did against Duke, they're going to probably win this by double digits. But I don't know. Well, here's the thing, James. It can't be. If you're betting Virginia Tech, it's not because they've hired James Franklin. James Franklin's not assuming control of the team until after the season. So it's still the interim coaching staff until that point. But like I said, I know Virginia Tech. If there's one game that they're going to step up and play hard in, you would think it would be this. This is a rivalry. You want to end the Wahoo's chance, the Cavaliers' chance. of getting to the ACC championship game. That's probably enough to keep me off taking Virginia, even though I'm leaning to the favorite here. C-Mac, what do you think? Virginia Tech, Virginia.
Yeah, I couldn't lay points here with Virginia. Everything from the great season that they've had. You talked about this defense from all the numbers that have just kept going up and better week in and week out. That seems like success against a guy named Drones, who's horrible. Talk about in this offense. I think Virginia Tech will be able to run the ball a little bit in this game. And it just seems like a layup. Virginia's been winning games, covering numbers. Virginia Tech just hasn't. But I think they could hang around in this game. I don't know if the 10.5 is enough, but watch out here. I think this game could be tight.
All right, LSU, Oklahoma. Oklahoma 10-point home favorites, 37.5 the total. Under, or LSU team total under. I think I'd look in either direction. It doesn't even matter anymore whether they stick with Van Buren at quarterback, who was god freaking awful, by the way, against Western.
Yeah, that was a rough.
Western Kentucky, I should say, on Saturday. He was absolutely brutal. Or you go back to Nussmeier, and it's not like he was playing great. Because the bigger issue is the offensive line. It stinks. It's absolutely awful for LSU. That offensive line is going to be in for a world of hurt on the road against Oklahoma here in Norman. I can't see them moving the football. I don't know if I'm going to lay 10. I would prefer to lean to LSU team total under or the full game under. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game. Oklahoma grinds out wins, usually like they did against Missouri over the weekend. Mateer throwing short to intermediate passes and running with the football. That's kind of what this feels like. The problem is you're not getting a bargain. It's already a low total, but it'll be a lower-scoring game. C-Mac, what do you think? LSU, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the 10, but I think it's Oklahoma. When you got this defense,
I've seen on this team.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I've seen this team not be able to move the ball. Shitty defenses.
Yeah.
I mean, they were making Western Kentucky look really good. Our guy Martin Van Buren, as I like to call him.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Oklahoma just grinds this. If I had to, I'd lay the points with them. Maybe the LSU, team total is even a good look.
All right, Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn on Friday night. We've got Alabama 5.5-point road favorites, 48.5 the total here in this game. Question marks about Auburn as far as quarterback is concerned. Ashton Daniels didn't play against Mercer on Saturday. He'll play in one more game to preserve eligibility for next year, so you would think he's got a chance to play here. Jackson Arnold started for Auburn against Mercer. What was noticeable here with Auburn the last couple of weeks, playing with tempo. Like, they've really sped up their offense. Like, they're playing a lot faster, getting to the huddle, snapping the football. So their pace has increased since Hugh Freeze got fired. And we'll see if that continues here against, because I've just got the over circled here in this game. And the Auburn defense, meanwhile, we'll see, but I'm not so sold on it being able to contain Ty Simpson and the Alabama offense here in this game necessarily. And like I said, I've seen this Auburn offense starting to play with a much faster pace, faster tempo going into this game. Alabama's dominated this series the last 5 years. They've won all 5. 3 of those 5 by double digits as well. What's been interesting about the series is the games in Alabama have been blowouts. That being said, the games in Auburn, they've been close, even though Alabama's won the last 2, 2-point overtime win and a 3-point win. So does Auburn compete here? For Auburn, this is their Super Bowl. This is their national championship. Let's beat Alabama and really hurt. Because, look, there's the potential that one more Alabama loss, let's say they were to lose this game, that could be enough to take them right out of the playoff. It very well could be. They're still in it, and obviously if they win this, they're definitely going to be in the playoff. But like I said, there's a chance that they lose this game. Their playoff hopes suddenly take a huge hit to the point they may not even get in. So, and Auburn would love to hand that kind of a fate to their arch rival. But, can you trust whoever's at quarterback, Daniels or Arnold, to get the job done. The over is what I like more than anything here because Auburn's played faster pace the last couple games. I think they could at home be able to have enough success to be able to move the football. And I think Alabama will have success against this Auburn defense too. One thing about Auburn's defense too is they were giving up some points and some plays to Mercer last week in that game. Not necessarily a good sign. So I like this over more than anything. CMAC, Iron Bowl, what do you think? Alabama, Auburn.
Yeah, that Knight kid had a big day at quarterback for I mean, of course, it's Mercer.
Yeah.
But, how can you go by it? This is the Super Bowl. This line is fishy to me. Like, just this short here?
Yep.
5.5. You talked about what Auburn defense are we going to get? Like, I think they've looked pretty good in a lot of games, and their offense couldn't do enough. Whether it's Georgia, that's what worries me here. Like, they have to play a lower scoring game. Now, can they? I don't know to be in it. And how much has this offense really changed?
Which contradicts them playing with the tempo they've been playing the last.
Oh, well, all of a sudden, yeah. Well, that's the change of the coach. So, what happens here?
Yep.
I don't know. This won't be easy here. I think for Alabama, it's just 5.5. I don't know. I don't know if I can get here.
All right. Like I said, I mean, the number's in a tricky spot, and Alabama's shown me a little bit of, vulnerability in some of the recent games. Like they haven't been, great, I'm just looking at it right now. And no doubt we've seen the tempo numbers the last few games go up here for Auburn. So that's why I've got the over potentially in mind here.
Bama too, gone on the road and won, but they've been tight games.
Yes. Yep, they have been. It's not been easy for them the last couple times at Auburn here in the Iron Bowl when Auburn's hosted it. All right, Colorado, Kansas State. K-State 18-point home favorites, 52 the total in this game. This is one of those, I don't know if I don't want Colorado, but I don't know if I take Kansas State laying this many points. We saw it, Deion's more interested right now in his kid's NFL career, Shedeur, right now, I think, than coaching this miserable Colorado team that's had a terrible year. So I think there's some truth to that. Not to mention the guys had so many freaking bladder issues and health issues this year. I think that's the focus. His son and his health are more of a focus right now than Colorado football at this point in time. I don't think this is a game I'll be betting on too much when it's all said and done. I mean, they just lost 42-17 to Arizona State at home. Now you're going on the road. Like I said, I don't want Colorado, but do I want to lay 18 with Kansas State? Kansas State sometimes is not a let's lay 18 with type of football team. CMAC, what do you think?
That's true, but at home here, I think they get a big win. It's just Colorado. I think it's kind of thrown in the towel for them. So I think it's a layup, but I think you maybe just take their team total. What's it going to be here? 34.5? K-State, I believe.
Yep. Let me see. Team total is 34.5. You got it. You nailed it.
34.5. I don't know how they don't just run the ball here. As long as Johnson doesn't have any bad turnovers at home. It seems like a lot of teams, as we watch this, get to 35 or 40 on Colorado. So, and they've been horrible. They haven't even been able to play well at home. And just from the quarterback play, they don't have the weapons. They don't have the defensive line. It just has been very good. So, I think it's K-State here.
Cincy, TCU. TCU 4-point home favorites, 57.5 the total. Nice win for TCU against Houston. That was good. They were starting to trend the other way and to bounce back, beat Houston last week. Solid win for them. This is a TCU spot or nothing. Cincy, I don't know what's left, right? They had lost 2 in a row. They actually gutted it out, played BYU pretty hard, fall short, final home game. Now you're going on the road to finish against TCU. I'm not sure we're going to get the A game from Satterfield's team here in this spot. Tough spot coming off the hard-fought effort against BYU. They're 7-4, so they already have a bowl game. So what's the difference? 8-3 or 8-4 or 7-5? Who cares? We're already going to a bowl game. So I would only consider TCU here. CMAC, what do you think?
I think so too. Usually I don't want to lay any points with this TCU team, but I think they're the better. It's just Cincinnati. We thought they were a little bit frauds. One thing with TCU laying points, I still just don't love their secondary.
Yeah.
Like in Sorsby could have some success, but that was my lean here, was TCU in the spot.
Houston, Baylor, better defense, getting points. Give me Houston plus 2.5. That's all I have to say about this game. I know they lost a tough one last week against TCU at home, but there's no chance I'm laying points with Baylor and that defense. So I'll lean Houston here plus 2.5. C-Mac, what do you think here? Houston, Baylor.
Yeah, god damn it. I think this Baylor team's been playing better. Their defense a little bit better the last month.
They are playing for bowl eligibility. So like I said, that might keep me off Houston, but I'm still not taking Baylor and laying points.
I know. That's my lone thing, because I think this is Baylor. It's just, maybe you have to go money line. I don't even want to lay 2.5 points. But I like this offense. I want them at home. And they just haven't been a team. They just lose. It's hard to back. We talked about with South Carolina. And Houston's had a really good year, even after that tough loss. But, yeah, tough one here. Probably be off.
All right, next up we have Missouri and Arkansas. Missouri 2.5-point road favorites, 58.5 the total in this game. Let me just double check the excuse me here with this Missouri-Arkansas game. Let me just double check. Now we did see Bo Pribula come back at quarterback for Missouri last week against Oklahoma. He struggled, but again, that was Oklahoma's defense. You got to be shitting me, man. 60% rain, 14-mile-per-hour winds on Saturday in Arkansas. God, this was a slam dunk over waiting to happen for me in this game. Missouri and Arkansas. Now with that weather, I'm a little bit. We'll wait later in the week. Maybe the weather clears up a bit. But this is over if the weather's going to be even halfway decent, because I think both teams move the football. Arkansas still can't stop anybody. And Texas showed that last week. But their offense can move the ball. Taylor Green and company were going point for point, drive for drive with Texas in the first half. Yeah, they finally, the defense showed up in the second half for Texas. But, yeah, over was definitely what I was interested in. But looks like potential for rain and wind on Saturday in Fayetteville. Still lean over, though. Maybe it'll clear up later in the week, the weather. C-Mac, what do you think?
If Arkansas takes care of the football, they can hang around. I just don't love the line here a little bit. I like them at home. Missouri's consistently beat Arkansas.
Yeah.
Seems like year in and year out. Even in Arkansas, the games are a little bit tighter. And Missouri has a better defense. It's just you want to lay points with them on the road. Yeah, some of those plays watching Green, I was like, what is going on against Texas? Like, what is he doing? But
Mizzou's won 8 of the last 9. Yeah, they have pretty much owned it.
He's a handful. But Arkansas has that, just like you were talking about. They just don't have a defense. They basically have to win a shootout, I think, or a back and forth type game that could be 3 points. It's just, off.
All right, Iowa State, Oklahoma State in the Big 12. Iowa State 14-point road favorites in Stillwater, 47.5 the total in this game. I'm going to be on Okie State here, Oklahoma State. I mean, they're at least playing hard, trying down the stretch. They're not nearly as absolutely pathetic as they were early in the season. I'm still not the biggest fan of the quarterback, Zane Flores, but he's at least been able to move the football a little bit for this team the last few games, which has been good to see. And like I said, with Oklahoma State, competitive against UCF. They led most of that game. They probably should have won it, but they were still right there. Lost 17-14. They covered against Kansas State. They covered against Kansas. They've covered 3 in a row. Like I said, the offense is still sketchy, but at least the defense is starting to keep them in games of late. And like I said, at least the effort's still there. And there's no way I trust Iowa State laying double digits this stage of the season on the road.
Yeah.
No, I just don't. So I think Oklahoma State's the bet here. I actually think it's a pretty solid bet. C-Mac, what do you think?
I know. After they just looked so good last week at home, Iowa State, which had been a problem for them, flat out. But I think I can't believe it's it. Yeah, Oklahoma State The thing is, though, is Iowa State I don't think has a great defense. This team hasn't been very good on the road. Is Flores.
Yep.
Like he scares the living shit out of me that there's a pick six.
They are 0-2 against the spread as road favorites this year, Iowa State.
Yeah, I remember they went to Arkansas State and it was a snooze fest.
Yep.
Early on in the year, 24-16.
That's what I think this could be.
I think it could be
they
too.
Care enough to beat Oklahoma State by more than 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, if they're really clicking, I mean, I think but yeah, there's just no way. I think it's Oklahoma State or nothing. Can't believe I'm saying it.
All right.
Maybe the first time all year.
Yeah, no, I actually took a piece of them last week against UCF, so I think I'm going to be on it again here. All right, Northwestern, Illinois. Northwestern Illinois 7-point home favorites, 47.5. Give me Northwestern here. And Northwestern, I've had a love-hate relationship with them. I've won with them a few times. I've lost with them a few times, but I've seen enough out of Illinois. That was pathetic against Wisconsin last week. Horrific from the Illinois Fighting Illini. And now you're going to ask me to trust you laying 7 here at home in this game. The defense is shaky, and even Altmaier, not playing the last, little bit of the season like he did early in the season. I mean, just 10 points, completely shut down in that loss at Wisconsin. Northwestern, we always prefer them if we're ever going to back them as a dog. So, yeah, this is Northwestern or nothing in this game. C-Mac, what do you think?
I think so. Even though Illinois at home, I think it's a better spot to bounce back, but Northwestern has a better defense. It's just, can this offense and the quarterback play do enough? I think they'll have success running the ball. This one was a little bit tricky. And what do we get? Northwestern, if you like them, I think slightly lean under. We just don't have this number.
Yep.
I think if you like Illinois, you'd lean over thinking they score, but I don't know. Are they
rain and wind, by the way? Rain 30? And wind.
I saw that a little bit.
Campaign. Yep.
Yeah. So ugly Northwestern.
Ugly Illinois wins Northwestern.
Yeah. They win by a field goal.
Yeah. I think it's still a good play, Northwestern. That game, I think, is pretty close. All right, this is the old Paul Bunyan's axe, the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe, they call it. Wisconsin and Minnesota. Minnesota, 1.5-point home favorites, and the total here at 37.5. I mean, that was this. You talk about, I can't believe I'm saying Oklahoma State. I can't believe I'm saying maybe Wisconsin here in this spot. There's actually some life here from Luke Fickell's team down the stretch. What a win that was against Illinois, a dominant win last week over the Illini. Let's not forget what they did against Washington as well. Wisconsin of late, beating the Huskies. Now, those two were at home in Camp Randall in Madison. I guess there's some truth to the fact that they got to show they can go on the road and do that. And this is a team that's 0-4 on the road. And Minnesota is 6-0 at home. But I've been kind of fading Minnesota, 3 straight non-covers, blown out at Iowa, blown out at Oregon. And even the win against Michigan State at home was by a field goal. So not overly impressive there. I just like the momentum Wisconsin's got right now. 3 straight covers, 4 straight covers, 4-0 against the spread their last 4 games. They covered against Oregon. They beat Washington. They were actually more competitive than you'd think against Indiana. And then the win against Illinois as underdogs last week. There's some, and this quarterback's actually not been terrible for them. The guy that's starting here down the stretch for Wisconsin at the quarterback spot. It's been Carter. So Carter Smith, I believe is his name. Yeah, Carter Smith. He's taken over. This guy can throw it a little bit. He's been halfway decent. 81% completions against Illinois. He had pretty good completion rate. And they're not asking him to do too much anyway because rely on running the football. And this Minnesota run defense hasn't been great at times, Minnesota. You can run on them. So this is when I lean Wisconsin a little bit. C-Mac, what do you think? Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Yeah, it was huge. I loved Wisconsin this weekend. That was nice, easy.
That was
win.
A good one. Yep.
And they got to win the football game here. basically. That's my only issue. We've hit on all year. And two other things. Wisconsin, even though the competition has been tough, 0-4 on the road.
Yeah.
Minnesota, 6-0 at home.
That could ultimately steer me off Wisconsin, but I know I'm not betting Minnesota here.
Yeah. I kind of agree, because how does Minnesota think it's just – I don't know how they're going to run the ball. Well, this Wisconsin run defense is pretty good.
Running the ball and stopping the run, right now the better of it is Wisconsin at both.
Oh, yeah.
The last few games, yep.
Minnesota's just still struggling to do it. That means they got to throw it. And I don't know if they could do that. Maybe they can have some success. This just seems like a tight game that could go either way. Coin flip, so, yeah.
All right, UCF and BYU in Provo. BYU 17.5-point home favorites, 48.5 the total. This is lay it or don't play it. I'm done betting against BYU. They just keep impressing. They keep getting the job done. And I just have no faith in UCF's offense right now. They don't move the football. That's a Oklahoma State team that they were life and death to beat on their home field last week. Yeah, this could get ugly for UCF. It's like I said, it's lay it or don't play it for me. C-Mac, what do you think here?
Yeah, BYU just keeps on keeping on. Shit. The Bachmeier's really good, this young kid, the quarterback. Their defense is gritty. I mean, BYU at home, I think they win here and roll. UCF, this is just not a spot, I think, to back them at all. I know the line's pretty big here at 17.5, but I won't be involved. I'll watch. BYU got it done this weekend again on the road. We were talking about last week's show.
SMU 13.5 against Cal, 53.5. Is there a coach bump this week? Justin Wilcox fired by the Golden Bears. And sometimes you have to watch out for that. The stat is very good, ATS, teams in their first game after a coaching change. Those teams have been covering quite a bit this year in spots like this. Problem is SMU's much the better team. SMU is really playing well right now. They beat Miami. They thumped Boston College. They crushed Louisville. And there's no doubt that if Cal keeps playing the way they've played lately, including last week against Stanford, that was ugly, 31-10 against Stanford, they could get drilled here. But, again, ATS winning record for teams in their first game after a coaching change this year. So, and it is long travel for SMU. You're going all the way out to Berkeley here for this game. So, I don't know if I bet it, but like I said,
tricky.
That angle's been working. So that angle says bet Cal this week. C-Mac, what do you think?
This one's tough. SMU, of course, the big win. This defense, I think, has been pretty good.
SMU's got times. Yeah, exactly. Still the ACC championship, still potential. Yep, they're alive for it.
And Cal, just man, that was horrible to watch. They were horrible. I think they're better than this. This is a little bit dangerous. Like, do you want to get involved in this game? Cal's been disappointing, for the most part. Wanting to back them. So I don't know if the coaching change really fucking matters.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think a lot of people think that SMU could go in there and just win by 2 touchdowns. I just don't know if I have. Cal's got to they got to take care of the ball. They can't run the ball. So that means they're just throwing it, which is always disgusting to watch. And that means there could be turnovers in this game. And this defense has just come and gone. Like, sometimes they've played all right, and they just gotten gashed, again, in some of these games. That, I'll probably be off.
All right, Notre Dame, Stanford. Notre Dame, 32.5-point road favorites, 51.5 the total. They could cover this, Notre Dame. Seriously, they could. Stanford, good on them. Andrew Luck, Frank Reich, way to go, beating Cal last week. It was a nice win. They actually played well. Great job. Coming off a win like that, I could see them getting absolutely just destroyed in this game, quite honestly. But Notre Dame has been running up scores. They have not had any mercy on their opponents. The one thing I will say that does concern me about laying this many with Notre Dame is the travel, the time of the game. When's the last time Notre Dame had to play at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time opening kickoff? It's been a while. Does that fuck with them a little bit in this spot? That's the only thing I would be a little bit leery of here in this game. But there's no doubt Notre Dame has the potential to absolutely roll through this game. I mean, look at these last three covers: 49-10, 37-15, 70-7. Probably going to be a no bet, but I'm not stepping in front of Notre Dame. Let's put it that way. C-Mac, what do you think? Maybe the over here. Notre Dame can get close to this by themselves, perhaps.
Maybe. I mean, we talked about, God, this line is huge, though, for a road game. And I think everyone just sees them winning 70, score 70-0 last week. Yeah, it's a little bit tough because Stanford after that win, that's like, that get up for that game. That's such a big rivalry. Notre Dame's kind of just kicked their ass again and again the last few years. And how do they stop them? And one thing it's gotten so better we've talked about with Notre Dame is the defense. So from the struggle start of the year, I know it's a little bit the schedule. If Stanford scores 2 touchdowns, they're covering. It's going over for sure, and they're covering, I think. Like, this is a big number on the road to lay.
It is.
For Notre Dame. I'm tempted by Stanford in this game a little bit. Maybe the over does get there too, but yeah.
Yeah, the over is what I'm a little bit more interested in. But
it seems like get in, get out. West Coast trip, you talk about, and then they're set here after this game. Get in there with the win.
All right, Battle of LA, UCLA, USC. USC 22-point home favorites, 22.5 in some spots. The total here sitting at, it looks like 59.5 across the board in this game. Wow, that's a lot of points to be laying. And for USC, pretty exhausting, grueling battle. Suffered some injuries along the way in that loss to Oregon. And now that loss takes you out of any long shot running for the playoff. Not in a spot like this can I lay 22.5 with USC. And like I said, they did suffer some injuries and attrition. Now, UCLA has gone right back down in the sewer again. They had that little bump after Foster got fired for a few games there, and then they've gone right back into the dumpster again these last few. That was hideous against Washington on Saturday night for UCLA. But gosh, if I'm betting this game at all, and I'm not saying I am, it's hold your nose in UCLA. I can't lay this many in this spot with the Trojans. C-Mac, what do you think?
You got to take the 22.5 points here. You have to. I think you – and this is just after –
you're going to show up one more time, UCLA, this would be the spot to do it.
Yep. These games are always good between these two. A lot of times, too. It's how bad UCLA is here, but UCLA will win in the Coliseum, and SC win in the Rose Bowl. I mean, this isn't these teams do not like each other. Yep. Yeah, this seems like it's a lot of points, but it could get over a little bit. SC.
Nico Iamaleava played against Washington. He just didn't play very well. And the defense got ripped for 48 by Washington. So the over is probably the only way I could look with the total. Yep.
Yeah, I think so too. I just, after how bad they've been, it seems like the get up. We've already touched on all these games. Georgia Tech, all of them. Down like Bama, Auburn, UCLA, 3 touchdown dogs. I think at least give it a game here.
Yeah, we're on the same page here. Lean UCLA, lean over the total here as well. All right, Oregon and Washington. Oregon 6.5-point road favorites. Total here sitting at looks like 52.5 is what we're looking at here across the board in this game. So Oregon, obviously, a good win for them, but defense, did give up some plays. Jaden Maiava was able to move the football a little bit for USC in that game. Now you're taking on a Washington team that, you can't give them too much credit for what they did against UCLA because UCLA was that bad. But you are talking about a Washington team that on their home field is 5-1 this year. But the one loss was Ohio State, who went in there and beat them 24-6. And this is by far the next best team you're playing. So this is a tough one because they've been good at home. They're getting 6.5. Oregon has shown some chinks in the armor on, the Iowa game on the road. Oregon was life and death to win that game earlier this season. So part of me thinks Washington makes this a real down-to-the-wire type of game. But I also can't take the Ohio State game out of my mind, where we thought maybe Washington was good enough to compete with one of the big heavyweights in the Big Ten, and they got just run over by Ohio State in that game. So that might temper my enthusiasm for taking Washington here in this game. I'd lean over. I would. I like with Robert's thought in the chat. The over, because Washington offense with Damon Williams is still capable. I think Oregon's defense is good, but it's feasted on a lot of weaker Big Ten offenses. Against better Big Ten offenses, they struggled with Indiana. They struggled with USC last week. That Washington at home can move the ball a bit, and I think Oregon moves the ball against anybody because that's just how good Dante Moore and that offense is right now. So maybe the over here is that the weather's going to be okay. C-Mac, what do you think? And it will be. No rain and no wind and light wind. The weather will be okay in Seattle as of now for Saturday.
Yeah, this does have nice weather. I'm on Washington here.
Like them? Okay.
I'm on Washington here. I've been waiting. I stayed off SC last week. We had talked about this week for where I want to fade Oregon. And there was 10.5, and I'm like, I just can't do it. I couldn't take SC. And they hung around. It could have been where they snuck in the back door. I want Washington at home. I want this offense with Williams. We talked about today. He has the weapons here.
Jonah Coleman, great running back. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Good receivers.
Yep.
Washington kind of feasts good. I think both are a little bit fraud defensively. Too. Washington has some pretty good numbers. They've been pretty good against the run. Now, Oregon, one of the tops, 230 that they average, but Washington, top 20 against the run. I just think we got a good one here. That's, touchdown or less. I want Washington here in this game.
Remember, it was Jed Fish versus Dan Lanning last year, and it was 70 points in that game. So keep that in mind. That's why I think the over is, pretty good bet here. 52.
Big Oregon win, too. Washington, beat them 3 straight before that?
Yeah.
Both times in 2023, as we remember, different teams, but,
Yeah. No, David Montgomery's true. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying they're bad. They're a talented team. They're a very good team. It's just I worry about that a little bit. Like they haven't faced anybody, and there's been no Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. Texas is probably one of the toughest teams they've played, believe it or not, in the SEC for the A&M.
This will be their toughest game. I mean, when you don't have Bama, Ole Miss,
we thought their schedule coming into the year because we thought Florida was going to be pretty good. We thought LSU was going to be pretty good. We thought, a bunch of these teams were going to be pretty good, and they just turned out they weren't.
But we still thought it was pretty soft schedule on who they were playing, right? When we went over on A&M,
Yep. We'll see. That's a good game. Like I said, that's must watch. Texas A&M, Texas, Friday night.
Yeah.
Oregon State, Washington. Oregon State or Washington. No, Washington State, I should say. It's Oregon State, Washington State. Washington State, 13.5-point home favorites. 41.5 the total. What a battle Washington State gave James Madison. Put the friggin' fear of God into JMU last week. Give Washington State credit. Great effort. But James Madison pulls out a close one in that game. Now you're going all the way back to Pullman, and you're laying 13.5 against Oregon State. I know I don't want to back Oregon State on the road. I can't. I won't.
Yeah. Oregon State already beat them. This is that weird game here. They're playing them twice in a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is like
revenge here for Washington State. But look at on the road. 31-14 loss at Tulsa. 27-23 at App State. 41-7 at Oregon. I mean, they've been terrible on the road. That's not now. They do have the bye week, but again, they're 2-9. They can't go bowling. I don't know, final home game. And at home, Washington State beat Louisiana Tech 28-3, Toledo 28-7. They've had some pretty good performances, Washington State, on their home field throughout the course of the season. Other than Washington, they lost that game. But again, and then remember, they beat San Diego State, who might still win the Mountain West. And Washington State beat them at home 36-13. So this is lay it or don't play it for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, when I had this yesterday, because the rematch, I thought it's late. I think they get their team total in this game. They want to go bowling. This is a 5-5 team, right? With Washington 5-6. Obviously, they just lost. So
that's true.
I think
they're looking to go bowling. Yep.
Yeah, and they already just played an awful game.
More eligibility on the line. Yep, for Washington State. Yep.
At Oregon State. And Oregon State, just this team that's not been the same on the road. We talked about 0-4. So whether it's, this total is low, and Washington State to me has the better defense in this game. So I just thought they could get their team total here in this game.
All right, battle for the Fremont Cannon. UNLV, Nevada. UNLV 8.5-point road favorites, 53.5 the total in this game. I've got, not for me, and I don't like doing this, but suggesting some conspiracy theory or something, but I have no explanation for Hawaii looking inept against UNLV's defense like that last week. I have no explanation for it.
Hats off to UNLV.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the best game they've played all year long.
Probably the only game they've played all year long that's been any good defensively. But you got to give them credit. You're right.
Well, we talked about it. Remember on Friday, my lone day, I was thinking it's Friday night. Those games in a home game was kind of the shit. The Rebels, but the team's been so bad defensively.
Yep.
Until they showed up. I mean, hats off to them. Rebels played great.
So Nevada has given up 31 to Western Kentucky, 44 to San Diego State, 24 to New Mexico, 24 to Boise with I don't even think they had the Madsen in that game, did they? Oh, they did. But 24 to Boise, 51 to Utah State. Last two games, they've given up, but San Jose State's collapsed. Throw that out. And Wyoming's offense is pathetic. So don't read too much into that. I'm thinking UNLV scores points because Calandri and the offense is rolling. It's what do they give up to Nevada? That's going to be the question here in this game. But, it's 8.5, laying it with UNLV on the road. Even though I think they're going to score here, I don't feel comfortable laying points of this magnitude away from home with UNLV. And I'll say this about Nevada. They have covered one and covered two in a row outright as a dog. So it is still a rivalry. And if you look at the recent meetings, UNLV's won the last three. Two of them have been decided by 8 points or less. Two of those three. And in Nevada, I'm going back and looking. UNLV since 2015 has not beaten Nevada here in Reno by more than 8 points. So I don't know. I lean Nevada. It's an ugly dog. I don't know if their defense can stop UNLV, but I'd still lean to take in Nevada here. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, they beat them a couple years ago and covered, but you're right. Other than that, it's been it's just not been an easy place to play for UNLV up there. My biggest thing is Calandri, I think, is fine. I think he just rolled his ankle on the celebration thing. I've heard he's been sick, too. He played well. Again, this Nevada offense isn't very good. I think they could run the ball, though, a little bit here on UNLV. This defense that came to play, that's 131 against the pass, and 113. They give up 185 yards on the ground. I think a lot of people are going to love UNLV again. I don't know if I can get there with Nevada. This was one I got to sit with a little bit. The Nevada team has just gotten blown out on the road, has been competitive at home. Their offense just hasn't been able to score. I think they covered. I was on them against Boise, 21.5-point dogs, 24-3. So I covered by the hook there. Can they score on this UNLV defense a little bit that could keep them in the game? So, yeah, this is a wait for me for the Cannon.
All right, last game, Wyoming. Last game for the entire regular season here on the College Football Hitting the Book show. Wyoming and Hawaii. Hawaii 10-point home favorites, 44.5 the total here in this game. This is lay it or don't play it, personally.
I think so.
That was such a despicable, yucky, horrendous performance and effort by Hawaii at UNLV last Friday that I think they want to just wipe that taste right on out of their system. And they've got the right opponent to do it against, because Wyoming's got zilch on offense right now. 7 points against Nevada, 3 points against Fresno, 7 points against San Diego State, 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread in those games. They haven't scored more than 7 points since they beat Colorado State. Here in the month of November, they have not scored more than 7 points in any game. And if they are held to that amount of points here, Hawaii's going to blow them out, because I think Alejado and the offense is so much better. There's tons of drop passes, too. Like, it was just incredible, the amount of mistakes and just sloppiness the Hawaii offense displayed last week. I think they clean it up here. It's the final home game of the season. Chance to get to 8-4 on the season. 8 wins would be a very, very fine season for Timmy Chang and Hawaii. I think they're incentivized to get to 8 wins. Lay it or don't play it. Hawaii for me. C-Mac, what do you think?
I think it's a good bounce back spot, but I'm not going to play it. I think you lean to lay it, but I just can't do it. Not at 10. They have to play a lot better. This Wyoming team's been just a mystery. The offense is horrible. This will be their 3rd straight 2. Do they have a bye in between road games?
Who?
I believe Wyoming.
Let me just double check on that. No, they played Nevada last week.
Oh, okay. At home. Before that, they played at San Diego State.
Yeah, because Josh Allen went back there as like a special.
Yes. Yeah, I saw.
Wyoming jersey retired. Yep.
Yeah, I saw him there. So I think Hawaii plays better, but this game, I don't know. Last game, see ya.
Again, not saying I'm betting it, but for sure it's a one-way game for me. It's either -10 on Hawaii or I pass. Yep. There you go. That's the end of the regular season. Can't believe how quickly it has gone by. And we thank you for being here with us every step of the way here on the College Football Hitting the Book show. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Just to remind you, the schedule for this week: tomorrow, college basketball, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday. Wednesday and Friday, also 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Wednesday, Friday, we've got members-only editions of the Hitting the Books show for our YouTube channel members and subscribers. So make sure you become a member if you aren't already, so you can join us for our Wednesday and Friday shows. That's about it. So we're on Tuesday with college basketball, and then Wednesday, Friday with our members-only shows, which are all sports that we cover in those 2 days. That's a wrap. C-Mac, anything else to add before we wrap it up?
No, that's it. Join. This is where our Friday shows. We're pretty good. I already got a game in mind for our group of 5 that I was looking at last night. UTSA, big winners and the over. It's nice. It's nice when it's easy
over, but you really liked UTSA, and that was never, ever, ever in doubt. It was
I know.
That was as it gets. Yeah.
Cruised again.
Something about that Alamo turf. They love playing in that Alamo dome.
I know.
Good at home this year. UTSA. There you go.
But
great
thanks
stuff
to everybody.
Yep.
Go watch the show year in and year out. We will be on to the conference game and all that. And then once a few weeks, the bowl games, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll let you know the schedule of that on Monday, going forward.
There you have it. Great stuff. Hit the like button on the way out one more time. We're not done with college football hitting the books, though. No. We got conference championship preview show next Monday at this time. We'll be previewing every conference championship game. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, we got 2 bowl preview shows after that for the bowl season, as well as the playoff games. So very much excited about that. Still a few shows to go here with college football hitting the books. For C-Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great week. Enjoy the final week of the college football regular season, and good luck. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the U.S. as well. And we will be back next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, with the conference championship game preview edition of the College Football Hitting the Books show. Until then, class dismissed.
Peace.